twisted threads of truth, laughing in the face of chaos, burning knowledge like a ruthless youth. Complex thoughts dance in the fire, cynics grin with a wisecrack's ire, fighting shadows with sharpened wits, baring teeth in a world unfair. They're the one with biting charm, heart and brain a lethal arm, and unshaken minds collide, laughing with the storm inside. They're the one with biting charm, heart and brain a lethal arm, and unshaken minds collide, laughing with the storm inside. Faces enemies with a yes, every laugh a cutting test, carving paths through blackened skies, inside clear and bloodshot eyes. In the maze of thoughts ensnare, every joke a blade prepared, cuts through lies with humor's flair, unseen wisdom few can bear.
Hey, folks! Me and Mr. Jingles bids you a good welcome, don't we, Mr. Jingles? Don't we? Yeah. For this part 2 of the depositions in the CNN defamation trial. And who here thinks it gets better for CNNs? Oh, and hello to Christine, and I see Connor in the chat as well. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. Yeah, that last part of my new intro. I mean, yeah, that's one moment in time that I will cherish for the rest of my days. And yeah, by the way, it is now almost confirmed. I am going to Utah in September, and I will probably be landing in Salt Lake City around the 3rd of September. I'm going to spend a couple of weeks there, and hopefully I get to meet Connor and family when I'm there. I will meet up with Donnie Ahn as well. And if you're a fan and we can make it happen somewhere around Salt Lake City, then let's have a meetup. And yeah, so it is almost 100% set. I'm going to Utah in September, and I might spend a week in Miami as well. And if you want to support my US trip this year, everything I get into my PayPal will go directly to that trip. Mr. Jingles, you are so cuddly. What happened? Did you steal a car, Mr. Jingles? Did you steal a car again? Yeah. I know your schedule is really, really busy. Or hey, I'm having a rental, so we can maybe meet somewhere in between, or something of the sort. Mr. Hold on. Mr. Jingles needs treats. Mr. Jingles needs treats. Open. So a bit of a delay here. There. No. So yeah, let's see. Do I have? Oh, I don't have. Let's see here. Dun dun dun. Oh. There. Now you have the PayPal link as well. So yeah, I will pour much of my own money and money I make from this channel into that trip as well. But if you want to help out, then PayPal is for now the option. Okay. I saw Jim Schuler says, did you hear Jim Acosta claiming CNN was a news network? What a comedian. What a comedian. What a comedian. But hey, we are here for a continuing of the absolutely horrendous, I say, depositions of CNN employees and producers and news anchors and all of the things. And I mean, you would imagine that these professionals would do better, but here's the thing. It's so rare, so rare that these people are being held accountable for their actions. Rarely they are in the situation of being deposed. And they don't really know how to act. They act as if they were in a normal interview. And oh my gosh, the stream yesterday, well, it was so cringe. But let's see if today will be any different. With this guy. Let's see here. Who are you, my friend?
Can you please state your full name and date of birth for the record?
Sure. Michael Carey Callahan, March 10th,
Mr.
1980.
Callahan.
You understand you're under oath here today and you've sworn to tell the truth?
I do.
And you understand the examination is being recorded?
Yes.
And that means that your testimony here today could eventually be played for a judge or a jury at some point down the line?
Yes.
And do you prepare for today's deposition with counsel?
I did.
And are you currently employed at CNN?
Yes.
How long have you been at CNN?
Just over 7 years.
So moving back up to...
Okay, I'm going to play this in 1.25 so we get through it. Oop. Hold on. Playback speed, 1.25.
CNN, what is your title at CNN?
Supervising producer.
Has that been your title the whole time you've been with CNN?
Yes.
What is your role and responsibilities as a senior producer?
I manage our coverage at CNN for the national security beat.
Have you ever seen this video before?
Yes.
And did you see it at the time that it aired?
I would imagine so.
Were you involved in the production of the story?
Production? No.
Were you involved with the story in any way?
Yes.
What was your involvement with the story?
I manage the CNN national security team, which covered the Afghanistan withdrawal and the aftermath. And this is a story that was worked on by Alex Marquardt, who's a member of the national security team.
So what do you call that part, the little script that Jake Tapper reads at the start of this?
An anchor introduction.
And what's the purpose of an anchor introduction?
Setting up what you're about to see or hear.
So does that mean the story is about, black markets and exorbitant fees?
Well, the story's about desperate Afghans who were fleeing Afghanistan at a time when the Taliban took over and they were fearing for their lives and what they were going through trying to get out.
I feel like that still hasn't answered my question, which is part of what they were facing a black market for evacuations?
They were facing an unregulated market that I would say is a black market, can be considered unregulated. And in that terms, yes.
Does the phrase black market have any particular connotation for you?
An unregulated market for goods or services.
Is there anything inherently nefarious about that?
I think it all depends on what's being sold or what's being sold. I mean, if you're selling organs in an unregulated market, that's pretty freaking nefarious, in my opinion.
You see there's a message from Zachary Young at the top of the screen?
Yes.
And you see there's a banner at the bottom that says, Afghans trying to flee Taliban face black markets, exorbitant fees, no guarantee of safety or success.
Yes.
Did Mr. Young tell you or tell Mr. Marquardt that he was performing evacuations for Bloomberg?
Did not tell me, no.
Did he tell Mr. Marquardt that?
You'd have to ask Alex, but I believe so.
So did anyone ask Bloomberg whether it was an exorbitant amount of money for them to pay?
I believe Alex Marquardt reached out to Bloomberg for comment.
What did you find out?
I don't think they responded, if I recall.
Yeah, why would they respond? They know CNN is doing something, and they don't want. They have employees in Afghanistan they want out. Why would they want to talk to you guys jeopardizing that? Why? Why, Mr. Callahan?
Do you think that was shady that Bloomberg didn't respond?
I don't know.
Is there anything suspicious about Bloomberg not wanting to talk to CNN?
I don't know.
Do you think that was evidence that Bloomberg was doing something wrong?
Again, Bloomberg wasn't the story we were doing. We were doing a story about desperate Afghans and what they were facing to flee the Taliban.
Do you think Bloomberg was being evasive because they wouldn't respond to Mr. Marquardt's questions?
Again, Bloomberg was not the story. The story is about Afghans fleeing the Taliban.
How could Mr. Young have been exploiting Afghans by accepting payments from Bloomberg?
Again, this was not a story about Mr. Young working for Bloomberg. This is a story about Afghans looking to depart.
Yeah, this is it's eerily how similar everybody's answer is, as if they were prepped to say the exact same thing. And if you were here for the prior stream of depositions, it is uncanny how similar their answers are to specific topics.
Taliban controlled Afghanistan.
I'm asking if Mr. Young could have been exploiting Afghans by accepting payments from a company like Bloomberg.
I don't know Bloomberg's makeup of people and how that was being paid. I don't know the deals that they were going on between them.
Did you think Mr. Young was engaged in fraud?
I don't know.
But at the time, did you suspect him of engaging in fraud?
I don't know. I never knew.
I've moved it up here to about, paused it at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, which is where we have the message from Zachary Young and then the banner at the bottom of the screen again. Yeah, was the implication here, where I paused the video, that Mr. Young was operating in a black market?
This is telling me Afghans fleeing the Taliban were facing black market fees, exorbitant fees.
And is the story reporting that Zachary Young is one of the people charging those fees?
Yes.
So does that mean the story is reporting that Zachary Young was operating in a black market?
I believe he was offering services in an unregulated market. So yes. From my understanding, the definition.
So do you recognize what this is?
It looks to be a Slack message between Alex Marquardt and myself.
And you see, one of the first messages from Mr. Marquardt, he writes, continuing to dig on that pitch I sent last night.
Yes.
And if we keep going down, do you see where you write, can we find more info on this young guy first?
Yes.
What information did you want to find out about Mr. Young?
I don't recall. It was 2 years ago. I think it was an open question. More info. More info.
Do you see where you wrote, have we run an, I'm just going to spell it, ACCUIRINT on him?
I see that.
How do you pronounce that?
Accurate.
What is accurate?
It's a public records search database. Best way to describe it.
Do you know whether that was ever done?
I don't recall.
Sitting here today, do you think Mr. Young is a bad actor?
I don't know.
Do you see towards the top where you wrote, before we reach out to any of the, quote, smugglers, end quote, we need to find someone who used them or was fleeced?
I see.
What did you mean by smugglers?
People helping people get across the border.
Is smuggling illegal?
Probably, I would say yes. But it depends on, I don't understand, it depends on the scenario. I don't.
Did you think Mr. Young was a smuggler?
No.
Do you recognize what this document is?
Interesting.
It looks to be an early pitch.
Is it an email between yourself and Mr. Markart, Mr. Levine, and Mr. Phillips?
That's what it says.
And you see, at the bottom, the initial message is from Mr. Markart.
Okay, when we are watching this, for you who have been watching a lot of trials, who have also watched depositions and other things, you know about this. The lawyers come with the receipts. They have been through discovery. They have the emails. They have the text messages. But it's so rare, extremely rare for journalists to be in this situation. So they don't really know how to act in these situations. So you just heard him answer, do you believe he was involved in smuggling? And he said, no, he didn't. He didn't believe that. And then comes the receipts. Now, I haven't watched this. So all I know is that this attorney Friedman. Now, I need to tell you, I have secured an interview with Attorney Friedman. All we need to secure now is the exact date and time. So you will all hear directly from Mr. Young's attorney, exclusive on this channel. It will be it will be great.
Yes.
And it's titled Extortion of Desperate Afghans.
Yes.
And then you have the pitch, and it concludes, we would try to find people who did end up paying and examine to what extent this is extortion versus fraud. Do you see that?
Yes.
So looking at Exhibit 3 and then at Exhibit 4, does it appear to you that Mr. Levine has sort of condensed Mr. Markart's pitch?
It looks to be a shorter version.
Okay. So you didn't write this pitch that Mr. Levine is sending to Ms. Taplis?
I don't know.
Do you see, we're on Exhibit 4 here, in the pitch, do you see where it says, we would interview an Afghan in the U.S. trying to get his family out, talk to others who are also trying to leave, / work this shadowy black market, and attempt to contact some of the profiteers alleging to do the extractions?
I see.
Do you recall seeing the phrase black market in relation to this pitch prior to this?
I don't recall.
What's a profiteer?
Someone who's profiting.
Any amount of profit?
I suppose so.
Does that mean CNN as a company is profiteering?
Sure.
So when they're selling advertisements that play during, say, Afghanistan coverage, are they profiteering off the situation in Afghanistan?
I'm not involved in ad sales.
But you understand CNN sells advertising, correct?
Yes.
So when it sells ads that air during Afghanistan coverage, is CNN profiteering off of the situation in Afghanistan?
I don't know what CNN's profits are.
I'm going to mark what we'll introduce as Exhibit 5, the document beginning with the date stamp CNN 000095. And is this an email between you and Michael Conti?
Looks to be.
Do you agree then with the description of the evacuation market as a shadowy black market?
Again, pitches are a short blurb, if you would call it, about what we're looking at. But I would describe it as a black market. Yes.
What was shadowy about it?
I don't know. We don't recall the time of. I don't know because did not write that word. I don't believe, if I recall.
Well, you may not might have originally wrote it, that you repeated it to Mr. Conti here, correct?
I did put that there, yes. It appears so.
Does shadowy mean illegal?
I don't know.
Go ahead and mark. We'll introduce Mark as Exhibit 6, which begins with the big stamp CNN 000638. Are these Slack messages between yourself and Mr. Markart?
Looks to be.
Yeah. This guy is actively
$sign.
trying
Yes.
to avoid answering
Who is
questions.
Bass?
Michael Bass.
And what was his role?
I couldn't tell you exact title, but he was a CNN executive for programming he oversaw shows.
And then you see where Mr. Markart wrote, Tammy just basically told me that dude was former CIA.
Yes.
You understand that dude to refer to Zachary Young?
I don't recall, and I don't see it here, so I don't recall.
Why did it matter whether Mr. Young was former CIA?
I don't recall the specifics of who Mr. Young said he was at the time, just from 2 years ago. But when trying to verify who somebody is, and if he claimed to be CIA, then it's a logical question to ask if he was.
And you said your understanding is Tammy is somebody who worked at the CIA?
Yes.
Like currently worked at the CIA?
Yes.
Do you know Tammy's last name?
Thorpe.
What is her role at the CIA?
She is a spokesperson for the CIA.
Do you see kind of towards the bottom of the first page, you wrote either of your two INTV, I assume that's interviewees, talked to Zachary Young?
I see it.
And Mr. Markart said, no, there's no connection there.
I see that.
Did you view that as a problem for the story?
No.
Why not?
Again, the story was about Afghans who are trying to flee the Taliban-controlled country.
At the end of the document, the last message from Mr. Markart, it says, I agree it would be good to have both sides of the transaction, but I don't think it's critical.
I see it.
Do you agree it wasn't critical?
I do.
Do you recognize this as a Slack message conversation between yourself and Katie Bo Williams?
Yes.
I believe is now known as Katie Bo Willis.
Yes.
Do you see where she says she's shady as hell?
Yes.
She then goes on, and difficult to pin down on specifics. My rough take is that he's total amateur hour. He can't account for his math. How do you get to 15,000 to get to UAE, for example? You see that?
I do.
So having rewatched the video and turned.
Now, as you see in this deposition, you see clear cutouts. Now, in depositions, this is what happens. All have you have the Mr. Young's attorney, you have this guy, you have CNN's attorneys, or his own personal attorney. It depends on how much money you have. And then all of this is recorded in one sweep. Now, CNN's attorney, when they object because of a question or questions, whatever it is, then after everything is recorded and done, the attorneys go together what's in or not. For instance, have the CNN's attorney said objection, relevance or something, and they agree, that is cut out. Or if they can't agree, then it's brought in front of the judge, who says that this you can keep, this you can't. So that is why you see these sudden breaks between one answer and the next question and stuff like that. So it's completely natural.
Back to Exhibit 8, do you understand Ms. Lillis to be referring to Zachary Young here?
Yes.
What did you understand her to mean by he's shady as hell?
You'd have to ask Katie Bo.
Well, I'm asking what you understood her to mean.
Well, from this message, he was being evasive, it sounds like.
Is anybody who doesn't want to speak with a CNN reporter
Why
shady?
would a person who is trying to get people out of Afghanistan, being evasive towards reporters who wants to report about, hey, how exactly how you're doing this? Well, sorry. Well, why wouldn't you? You're trying to get people out. If you talk to reporters, they might report on it, and all of a sudden your face, your name is out there and putting people you work with at risk. Of course you don't want to talk about it. For you who have been in the military in some capacity and have had some training in covert operations, you know not to talk too much. You know this. We all know this. Don't talk too much. This situation is like for Mr. Young to talk to journalists is like being a suspect talking to cops. Don't do it. Just don't. Because it will be used against you. And here, the journalist used everything against Mr. Young and, in my opinion, lied in their segment by implication, defamation by implication, and ruined his life, ruined his career. And probably, in my personal opinion, since Mr. Young couldn't continue, and others who did similar work as Mr. Young, once that aired, they draw back because, okay, CNN is reporting all over this. We can't continue. It's too high of a risk. So in my personal opinion, CNN's segment, when they included Mr. Young, probably cost Afghan lives. A lot of them. I don't know how many. Maybe dozens, hundreds. We don't know. Because CNN wanted a 5-minute segment and targeting Mr. Young.
So what made Mr. Young's reticence in this instance shady?
Again, you'd have to ask Kitty Bell.
Are there any legitimate reasons why somebody would not want to disclose information about their business to a CNN reporter?
It depends on the situation, I would imagine.
If a Fox News reporter called you and asked you how much money you make, would you tell them?
I don't know what the story is.
What if they don't tell you what the story is?
Probably wouldn't not comment.
Did you see where Ms. Lillis wrote that he wouldn't point her to any successful evacuations he has arranged?
Correct. I see that, yes.
So by October 27, you were aware that Mr. Young had claimed to have done evacuations for Bloomberg and Audible, right?
According to these Slack messages, yes.
Okay, so if we go back to Exhibit 8, these Slack messages between you and Ms. Lillis are from November 4, right?
Yes.
So what is Ms. Lillis talking about when she says she can't get pointed to any successful evacuations?
Again, you'd have to ask Kitty Bell.
Did you ever think to tell her, hey, supposedly he did evacuations for Bloomberg and Audible?
I don't recall.
Did you ever tell her, go look into the Audible and Bloomberg claims?
I don't recall.
Is that something you should have done?
I don't know. I don't recall that.
Did it matter to you whether Mr. Young successfully evacuated anybody?
Oh, look at this guy. Look, I'm no body language guy. I think it's a highly suspicious. I don't believe in it much. But I've been doing law for over 30 years. I've been in front of high-level executives. I've been negotiating with billionaire companies. When you see this, I caught them in something. They definitely didn't want me to know about. That is the exact expression I see them.
It's something that would be included in the story, if known.
So, is this an email you sent with a draft script to the staff of Jake Tapper's show?
It looks like it.
Do you know who at Jake Tapper's show would have been responsible for reviewing it?
The senior producers of the broadcast.
So is this an email between yourself, Mr. Marquardt, and various representatives of, I guess, Triad?
It looks to be.
You see where Mr. Marquardt wrote in the third paragraph, this all started when Young was brought to my attention by a Jill Kornetsky on LinkedIn.
I see that.
Did you know who Jill Kornetsky was?
I don't recall.
Do you know whether anyone looked into her?
I don't recall.
Was there any discussion about what her motivations might be?
I don't recall.
Do you ever have any discussions about whether Ms. Kornetsky wanted to hurt Mr. Young?
He knows the email stuff. I agree.
Well, looking at
Thank you. Hey, Diana, good to have you here.
this, I don't know her motives. You'd have to ask her.
But my question was whether there was any discussion that you participated in at CNN about whether Ms. Kornetsky might be motivated by a desire to hurt Mr. Young.
I don't recall.
Did it matter whether Ms. Kornetsky had an agenda of hurting Mr. Young?
That would be a discussion, I would imagine, a conversation, but I don't recall.
You see that it starts here, and there's what appears to be a script with various comments on it.
Yep.
And it's actually an email from yourself.
Okay.
And then there's an email from Mr. Marquardt, which has the script with some additional edits.
Okay.
And you respond, yes, 2 p.m. so we can revisit with Triad.
Okay.
Actually, let's pause here. So looking at this, the message you're responding to, Mr. Marquardt, mentions Young just texted me now. And let's see. And you say, I will send, and he says, I will send him a list of questions and give him a deadline of say 2 p.m.
Yes.
So that's about 2 hours.
Approximate.
Did you think 2 hours was a sharp turnaround time?
Again, there was reach outs to Mr. Young several times over the week before. So yes, I do.
Yeah.
This is an email from Mr. Marquardt to, among other people, yourself, right?
Yes, it looks like that.
Do you know who Hassami Armada was?
I recall the name from the story, but I don't recall the specifics. Looks to be an NGO.
Do you know whether Armada would have any way of knowing what Zachary Young's costs were for evacuation?
I don't know. But looking at this email, it looks like he would have some awareness of ballpark since he arranged for flights.
So then we come to this email from Mr. Hogan, and he says, so we're not necessarily accusing him of overcharging, just that the cost is far beyond what Afghans can afford, and he's both unapologetic and obtuse about his costs. You see that?
I see that.
And then you see Mr. Marquardt responds, not directly, no.
I see that.
Do you understand Mr. Marquardt to be saying that the story was indirectly accusing Mr. Young of overcharging?
You'd have to ask Mr. Marquardt. I don't know.
And they
have you
did.
understood his
And
email?
it was even worse
I
than this
honestly
guy in his
Don't
deposition.
understand it.
Why would so you don't take Mr. Marquardt saying not directly to essentially mean, but yes, indirectly?
Apologies. Again, you'd have to ask Alex what he meant by that.
Well, what did you understand him to mean in that first sentence?
That again, Mr. Young was being invasive to his questions.
So that sounds like your understanding of the second sentence.
Correct.
What's your understanding of the first sentence?
I don't have an understanding because I don't know what he meant.
Did you ever ask him what he meant?
Not that I recall.
So a number of these recent emails we've looked at, there's been references to like Triad phone calls. Does that, you agree?
Yes.
Is there like one that there's discussion around scheduling around 11 a.m.?
I'd have to go through all those emails. I don't know off the top of my head how many calls. I do know there was a call from that sheet.
You remember discussing the phrase black market at all on any of the calls?
I don't recall.
So this is an email between yourself and Mr. Marquardt.
Looks like it.
And it Looks like it starts with an email you sent to Mr. Markart, at the top of which you wrote, "From Alex Markart, tryout approved."
That's what it says.
And then Mr. Markart responds, "Thank you very much for doing that."
I see that.
What was he thanking you for?
I don't see who I sent this to, but judging on the format and what I have the information there, this looks like it was me sending out an email wider within CNN saying this piece was available for shows. That's usually the case after something airs for the first time on a show. It is then available for subsequent shows to use. And this was you could call it internal alert to let people know that this was available. But I'm judging this as just off the format, but I don't see a 2-line, but that's what it appears to be.
Okay. So you think Mr. Markart is just thanking you for circulating it more broadly within CNN?
That's what it looks like to me.
And before we go, a correction. In November, we ran a story about Afghans desperate to flee the country who face paying high sums beyond the reach of average Afghans. The story included a lead-in and banner throughout the story that referenced a black market. The use of the term black market in the story was an error. The story included reporting on Zachary Young, a private operator who had been contacted by family members of Afghans trying to flee the country. We did not intend to suggest that Mr. Young participated in a black market. We regret the error, and to Mr. Young, we apologize. Tune in to CNN Sunday for a 2-hour edition of State of the Union.
Have you ever seen this video before?
I recall when it aired, seeing it.
Did anyone discuss it with you in advance of it airing?
No. Well,
Did you discuss it?
I should say I was alerted, I believe, moments before from counsel that it was going to be airing.
Do you think the use of the phrase black market was an error?
I define black market as an unregulated market. In this case, I still think that applies.
So recognizing that you're not part of the top 2 emails in the chain, do you recognize the rest of it as an email conversation that you participated in with Mr. Markart and Mr. Lumley?
It appears so, yes.
And are you discussing the draft of like a digital version of the story about Afghan evacuations?
That looks like the case.
You see here Mr. Lumley says, "One major thing not clear to me, do any of the people who pay these guys actually get out of the country? I think we need a graph to explain."
Is this all totally hopeless? I see it.
Do you know anyone ever answered that question?
I don't recall. You'd have to ask Tom Lumley.
Did you agree that this was an important?
Oh, everybody's blaming each other. Everybody's blaming each other. Oh, you have to check with that one. You have to check with that one. It's getting more and more apparent to me that whoever was in the background is what happened here, in my personal opinion, in looking through now, what is this, deposition number 4 or 5 we've been watching, is that somebody coached them to answer like this. Now, an attorney can prepare a client for deposition, but it is highly, highly unethical to coach somebody. And we also know that Mr. Oh, I can't remember his name now. The attorney for CNN actively hid evidence in the trial from the defense. And yeah, clear discovery violation. Clear discovery violation. And if I believe that was on my day 7 coverage of the trial. But yeah, I have a separate video about Judge calling out the attorney, CNN's attorney, for lying to the court. So you can find that video on my channel.
Important question to answer.
I did not.
So I'm going to introduce Roll Mark as Exhibit 24, the document that begins with the date stamp CNN 000173. And then you received an email from a Brian Rokas.
Yes.
Is that, am I pronouncing that correctly?
That sounds right.
Who is Mr. Rokas?
He's a colleague at CNN.
And he asked you, is digital posting this?
I see that.
And then you respond, ha 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 ha, I really want someone to say it. You see that?
I see it.
You're laughing right now. Why?
Because I was clearly laughing at that email, so I was laughing at it.
What were you laughing about?
Looking at that, it looks like I said, I really want someone to say it, meaning his digital, because I thought that was a good story that deserved a digital story.
Do you think that CNN...
That was an involuntary reaction, telling me he remembers, despite saying, I don't know, I don't recall, I don't remember, he knows exactly what happened back then. Exactly. That was an involuntary reaction. Once he saw the ha ha ha, he remembered and he laughed again.
Reporting that Mr. Young was operating a black market is the sort of thing that would have a negative impact on Mr. Young?
Again, my understanding of how I think of a black market, I don't know, but a black market was unregulated. He was providing goods in an unregulated market.
The exact same answer. Every time they ask them, what is a black market? They all answer, unregulated. That, in my opinion, is a coached answer. Folks, an unregulated market is a gray market. You don't know if it's illegal. You don't know if it is legal. You call it a gray market then. Once you determine it's an illegal market, as in human trafficking, exploitation, and stuff like that, then it becomes an illegal market, a black market. So I could bet a lot of money on every employee in CNN knows exactly what the definition is of black market. And they are all lying in these depositions.
That to me fell under that.
Do you think most people view black markets in a negative light?
I'm not most people. You have to ask people.
Well, but you can, draw on your life experiences to anticipate how people are going to react to things that you say, right?
Every scenario is different. Every person is different. I can't anticipate what people are going to take away because every single person is different.
Right. So if CNN reported that Mr. Young was a scumbag, would you expect some people to, subsequently view Mr. Young in a negative light?
As a journalist at CNN, I don't think they would ever be on CNN. So therefore, I don't think I could ever answer that question.
If CNN reported that Zachary Young was a criminal, would you expect that to cause people to view him in a negative light?
Again, this is a hypothetical question. Was he convicted of a crime? I don't know. So I don't know what the scenarios of that headline would be.
I mean, it's a pretty straightforward question, I think, which is, if CNN reports something negative about Zachary Young, would you expect people in CNN's audience to subsequently view Mr. Young in a negative light?
Again, CNN deals with journalism reporting facts. In a hypothetical question you're asking, I don't have the facts in front of me, so I don't know.
So you don't view CNN as being...
What an ass. How much did he laugh himself through this deposition? Whoever coached him, you didn't do a good job. This is very, very annoying.
responsible at all for what its viewership takes away from its reporting?
CNN is responsible and stands by their reporting.
Do you think Mr. Young is a shitbag?
It's not language I would use. I don't know Mr. Young well enough.
Have you ever heard CNN reporters refer to a subject of a story as a shitbag?
Not that I recall.
Have you ever heard a CNN reporter refer to the subject of a story as an M-fucker?
Not that I recall.
Do you think there's any problem with a CNN reporter referring to the subject of a story that way?
You'd have to ask the reporter who says it. I don't know anything about it, what the circumstances are.
So you think there's some instances where it might be professional for a reporter to refer to the subject of the story as a shitbag?
I did not say that. I said you'd have to ask the person. I don't know what the conversation was.
But I'm asking for your personal.
It's not language I would use, as I said.
What do you think it means to nail someone?
I have lots of different connotations in my head, so I don't. Depends on what the context was.
Have you ever heard a CNN reporter say they're going to nail someone?
I don't recall.
All right. Friedman, next witness.
Okay, that was the deposition of Mr. Callahan. And, oh, God. Oh. Yeah, this is the part of the trial I never got to, so because I was always a day behind. So I skipped through the depositions and stuff like that. I've been told by Mr. Friedman that this next witness, which I didn't know about because I skipped over this part, he thinks I would find this next witness very interesting. And again, for you who just joined, thank you for being here. Hello over at Rumble. Hello over at Twitter or X. And hey, yo, I have secured an interview with Zachary Young's attorney, Mr. Friedman. We are currently trying to nail down a day and time for that interview. So, I don't get to say this much, but in a few days, exclusive on this channel, Mr. Zachary Young's attorney, Mr. Friedman, will join us live. Oh, and thank you to Nicholas Kreuzer for your $5 super chat. Thank you so much. The higher the greasiest people at CNN. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. It's really, really interesting to see behind the scenes at CNN. This is how they conduct themselves. Absolutely slimeballs. Absolutely. Oh, and Jean Lee gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Oh, now I have to adjust the banner here. Let's see here. New members today. 5. And honorary Viking. That would be with 5 gifted memberships. Jean Lee. That is a combined $15. So, dun, dun, dun. Yes. If you are contemplating becoming a member and getting access to all the members-only content or your own emojis here on YouTube and access to my Discord, then it's $3 a month for all of that. And for you who just got gifted, it was Fatulai, Corn Pope, John C., Femnatal, and Hippie Chic, aka Mav, who got gifted memberships. Congratulations. Congratulations. And thank you again, Sean Lee. Thank you. All right, now let's go to this witness who attorney Friedman says I would find really interesting. Some of this stream I will cut out as highlights and cut it out as separate videos, because I learned that a big portion of my audience prefer highlights before all of these long streams. So I'm trying to adjust to the audience.
Thomas Lumley.
Okay, let's get the sound enhancer up. Who is it supposed to? Okay. It's this guy who well. Look at him walk. This is, I don't know. Is he trying to impersonate John Cleese's funny walks or something? I don't know. But he is clearly nervous. Look at this guy walking in. Is he about to crap himself?
Lumley, you could stand there, face the clerk, raise your right hand. All right, just have a seat there and then position the microphone where it's facing towards your mouth so we can pick up your sound, your voice pretty well. All right, Mr. Friedman.
Good morning, Mr. Lumley.
Lumley.
Sir, you have been employed with CNN for over 6 years, correct?
Yeah, I think I joined CNN in 2017.
Do you mind just pulling
Yeah, move the microphone. You can slide it towards you. There you go.
more time, sir? 6 years about?
Yeah, probably a little bit longer than 6 years.
Oh, it's
And,
British.
You are CNN's senior national security editor, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, he's the editor.
Uh,
The editor in segments are really important because they are the people who actually does the final after talking to everybody involved. This is what we are going to show. Oh, and he's British and he has some. I'm going to play this in normal speed. This is interesting.
The video segment at issue in this case ran on November 11th at 5:38 p.m., correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And I want to bring you back in time to just 2.5 hours before it aired on TV, okay?
Sure,
And that would be about 3 p.m., right?
sure, that sounds right.
Can I get a limited publication of Exhibit 162, please, Corey? So this is an email between yourself and Matthew Phillips, Mike Callahan, and others at CNN that relates to the story at issue in this case.
Yeah, that's it.
Your Honor, plaintiffs offer Exhibit 162 into evidence.
No objection. All right, minus 162 is admitted.
Mr. Hagan, can we please publish to the jury with the court's permission? Thank you.
Grant publish.
Is it all right if I move this a little bit forward and tilt it, Your Honor? I can't quite see it from there. Oh, you know what? I might be able to move this. All right, there we go. Can we go to 252, Corey? So, sir, at 2:52 p.m., so we're, again, about an hour and a half before the TV piece airs, right?
Yep,
You get an email from Mike Callahan, right?
yep.
And what he's doing here is, Corey, can we scroll down a little bit? He is forwarding you a copy of, keep going a little bit, Corey, to the next page. He's forwarding you a copy of the TV script, right? Do you see that?
Yes, I do see that.
All right. So, Corey, can we scroll back up to the top to that email we were looking at? And he says, FYI, he, meaning Alexander Marquardt, right, is writing digital still and trying to stay close to the script info, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely what that says.
So fair to say that Mr. Callahan is kind of giving you a heads up saying, hey, here's this TV script. Mr. Marquardt's going to be writing a digital article about it too, right?
Yeah, that seems true.
And Mr. Callahan, he's with desk or news gathering. How do you refer to that?
His job title is, I believe, supervising producer for national security. I think that's his title, but yes, he is my direct counterpart handling news gathering, national security news gathering for CNN.
So, but you work in digital, right? Which is the print side of CNN's website, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think a good way of shorthanding it for the purpose of this, it's the written article I was working on.
Okay, so you're with digital writing, and what is Mr. Callahan with? What is the TV side of CNN called? Give me a shorthand for that.
I mean, it's not as formally divided as that, and we work together kind of all the time, but he is, I don't know the direct reporting structure, but basically reporters and a team of reporters and producers report to Mike. He is working in close coordination with lots of colleagues across CNN at producing our journalism for TV and digital, but this is a television script.
Okay, so I'm going to refer.
Sorry, I just learned that the name of Honorary Viking is Jan Lee. So I've been pronouncing it wrong for months. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, yeah. I blame. I'm not American or English. I'm Swedish. I blame. Yeah.
Your side is digital and the TV side is TV. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So, Corey, can we put up Plaintiff's Exhibit 168 at 4? Let's go to page 4, please. And can we zoom into that email at 3:30 p.m., Corey? So we just saw that at about 3 o'clock, 2:52, you received a copy of the TV script from Mr. Callahan, right?
Yes.
So this is about 40 minutes later, right? 3:30, 2:52 to 3:30, we're at about 40 minutes later.
Seems like that, yeah.
And now you get from Alexander Marquardt a draft of the written digital article, right?
Yep.
And so that's at 3:30. About 1 hour and 15 minutes later, can we go to that email at 4:43, please? So about 1 hour and 15 minutes later, you send back edits, right? Edits and some questions below. Do you see that?
Yes, I see that.
And it's now 4:43 p.m., correct?
Yep.
And the actual video isn't published until 5:38 p.m., right?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what time it was published, but I'm sure you're correct.
Okay. So you say one major thing is not clear to me. Do any of these people who pay these guys actually get out of the country? I think we need a graph. That's a paragraph, right? I think we need a paragraph to explain, is this all totally hopeless, right?
That's what I wrote.
Okay. Now, Corey, can we put side by side with 168? Let's put up 161, which is now in evidence. So this is the message on the bottom, Mr. Lumley. This is UTC time. So the 9:44 UTC is actually 4:44 DC time, okay?
I see it, yep.
So you send your edits and your question about this something that's totally unclear to you back to Alexander Marquardt and Mr. Callahan, correct? That's the top email.
I mean, I'm asking a question. I don't know if it's, the whole thing's totally unclear to me, but I'm asking that particular question, yes.
And then 1 minute later, you send a Slack message to Mr. Phillips, right? And he's a digital editor at CNN too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Mr. Phillips' name.
All right,
I'm sure that I'm sure that's.
Let's show you. Do you see at the top? Corey's highlighting it for you.
Yeah, I see it, absolutely. Yeah, Mr. Phillips is yes, he's a person that edits digital stories at CNN, yes.
So you give your feedback to Mr. Callahan, and 1 minute later, you message Mr. Phillips, right?
Yep.
And in that message, you say, I have sent back edits. And a fundamental question about the whole story, I don't understand, from Alex Wright and the TV script, right?
Yeah, I had a question, a particular question about the story that I was interested in the whole process.
So at this time, you've reviewed both the TV script we saw.
So somebody at CNN, this guy saw in my opinion, saw something was fundamentally wrong with it. Again, this goes to intent from CNN. This guy apparently, so far, I don't know the rest of his testimony, but it seems like, hey, something's up here. What's going on? Somebody at CNN, this guy, apparently tried to pull the brakes. Hey, what's actually going on here?
Right?
I've seen the TV script. It's not my job to review and vet the TV script.
I understand, but you've reviewed it, right?
I've read it.
You've read it. I'll use read. You've read the TV script, and you've read the draft article, right?
Yes.
And despite reviewing both, you immediately flagged a fundamental issue that you don't understand, correct?
Yeah, I had a question that I was interested in addressing, certainly, yes.
In fact, can we take down the left side, please, Corey? Let's go to the, yeah. In fact, Mr. Lumley, you are so surprised about this fundamental issue that you write 1 minute after that I am sort of surprised Triad approved, right?
Yeah, no, I wrote that. I mean, I guess.
Oh, this is bad for CNN. This guy, Tom Lumley, is calling the Triad out. He's calling the entire article out. He's calling out the entire segment as more or less, hey, folks, this is wrong. Holy crap. I wish I... Oh, wow. This is good for Mr. Young. No wonder he got an undisclosed amount of multi-millions when this guy actually tried to pull the brakes on the entire story. And remember, every other person on CNN says, oh, everything was good. But this guy said, oh, hell no, this isn't good. Hi, Dave. Hi. Oh, this is so bad for CNN. I'm actually surprised he still have a job at CNN. But it would look really, really bad if they fired him now. So, yeah, so this is the intent. Now, they got Mr. Young's attorneys really got to intent other than this, but this is a smoking gun. This is the intent. They knew because somebody called it out. Hey, folks, this is bad. You should stop. Oh.
I was sort of surprised, but actually...
So those are your words on the page?
Those are absolutely my words on the page, but I actually think I think I'll explain this. My question about the story was what I'm going to call a storytelling question. It wasn't a question about the accuracy and fairness of this story, which is what Triad is really concerned of. So I said I'm sort of surprised, but when I think about it, that was a slightly imprecise thought.
Sir, did you prepare for your testimony here today?
Yes, I did.
Did you meet with CNN's lawyers?
Yes, I did.
How long?
I had like a pretty short meeting last night, like probably 45 minutes. And then we had a couple of meetings in Washington before the holidays. Like there were 2 meetings, probably like 4 hours, maybe 3 hours. I don't actually know. But yes, I prepared for the trial, I'm sure.
Well, I'm going to go through your documents. We'll see if it's a storytelling issue, okay?
Of course.
Now, at this point, sir, the digital article had not yet been submitted to Triad, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
As you were editing it still.
Yes.
All right. So when you're expressing surprise that Triad has approved this story, you are talking about the video, correct?
Yes.
Now, sir, just 2 minutes later, after 9:45, can we go to 9:47? Thank you. Just 2 minutes later, you double down on this criticism of both the article and the video, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I've had I have a consistent question throughout this process.
And sir, actually, you say it's actually a good story from a storytelling perspective.
The non-journalist on CNN is calling out the journalist. Wow, this is bad. The chief editor is calling the journalists at CNN out as being unethical, in my opinion. Now, he tries to negate it in his testimony here, but this is bad.
Right? You say it's actually a good story, right? You say that, sir? It's actually a good
Well,
story.
yeah, I mean, I say, but it's a good story.
Sir, you say it's a good story.
Yes, no, I did say it's a
Okay.
good story. It's my
And
words.
then you go on, you say, minus neither the digital right or the TV script answering a fundamental question, right?
Sure. Shall I explain what I believe that fundamental question was?
You know what? I'm going to bring you through your documents because I want to hear what you were thinking then, but I'm sure Mr. Axelrod will allow you to say what you're thinking now, okay?
No, I mean, I think what I'm thinking now and what I was thinking then was the same thing, but sure.
We'll see about that. So 1 minute later, Corey, can we see the next minute? 1 minute later, you say again, because I just asked a pretty fundamental question, right?
Yeah, see that?
Sir, it has been 4 minutes. It's now 4.
Oh, this gets worse for CNN. So much worse. Okay. Yeah, this is good lawyering, folks. They found all of that out. So this is quite late in the trial. Quite late. You have had Mr. Marquardt, Fourquart, whatever's. You had other journalists, editors, chief whatever's, CEOs and stuff. So they have had all of these people on for the jury to listen on, everybody doubling down on everything, more or less. And now, this guy. Oh, more or less, hey, jury, everybody you just listened to for the past 6 days from the employees of CNN, all of them are liars. Look at this. They all knew. They all knew it was a shit story.
.48 p.m. You submitted your edits to Mr. Marquardt 4:44. Remember?
Yep.
It's been 4 minutes since you submitted your edits, and you have reiterated 3 times that the story has a fundamental issue. Correct?
Fundamental question, yes. So I think that's my words.
And that's because, sir, the story. Corey, can we go to the next? Let's go to, where is it? 9:48. The next minute. And that's because the story, you say, is basically about people being charged. People, not corporations, Mr. Lumley, correct?
Those are my words.
Okay. People being charged tens of thousands of dollars to get out of the country. But that it's not clear to me if anyone is being ripped off or if some people pay and get out. And that's pretty crucial, you say, right? So, you say, looking forward to be provided with an answer, correct? Those are your words, sir?
Yeah, and as you see in the email previously, I'd asked that question.
Yep. And then, sir, you're writing to Mr. Phillips, and he agrees with you. Corey, can we see the next line? He says, right. Totally unclear if anyone paid and didn't get out. Right?
I mean, those are his words, sure.
Yeah. And then
In this email conversation, there are more people who agrees with this guy in CNN. They knew putting Mr. Young in that story was bad. They all knew, and they did it anyway.
you go on to say, Mr. Lumley, you say, or paid and did, because our characters didn't pay in the end, which is why I'm unsure why Triad approved, right?
That's what I said.
It's not a storytelling issue, sir. Triad isn't worried about stories, are they? They're worried about facts, right? Accuracy, right?
They are.
So why are you surprised Triad approved if it's a storytelling issue, sir?
Because, well, I hadn't spoken to Triad about it, and I took the story into Triad, as I'm sure we will explore. And I think it is a storytelling issue, and I think I can understand. I do understand why Triad approved, and also I worked on the story. So that's 4:49, which I find easy to work that out because that's the time zone in my hometown. So that's the 5 hours. I think we finished the edit of the digital story around about 6:30. Like we were about 25 hours later.
So, sir, sitting here today,
Yes.
after having met with CNN's lawyers for many hours across many days, now, sir, you're right, which is why I'm unsure why Triad approved. Maybe Alex answers in his tag. Do you see that?
I do.
And then you say, if he doesn't know the answer to that fundamental question, I'd say we really need to pause this until we find it, right?
Those are my words.
And then you say, I'm hoping he knows, but just forgot to mention, right?
Sure, because this was.
Sir, all I asked you is if those are your words on the page. Are those your words on the page? I want to focus on that period of time, okay?
Sure, those are my words on the page. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Let's see, is it 9:51? So 1 minute later, Mr. Phillips right back with one word, doesn't he?
He does.
He says, oi, right?
Yep.
So this is 4:51 p.m. DC time, correct?
Yes.
The video segment doesn't air for another 45 minutes on Jake Tapper's show, correct?
Yes.
You've now flagged a fundamental question 4 times, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips has said oi, correct?
He has.
You told Alexander Marquardt and Mr. Callahan that there is a major thing that is not clear to me, correct?
There's a question that I'm interested in answering. Yes, absolutely.
And Alexander Marquardt never answers this question in his tag or otherwise, correct?
I can't remember what he said in his tag. We answer it in the digital right.
Yeah, you answer whether people pay and get out?
We aren't. I'd have to look at the story, but yes, we say whether we say that we don't know the answer to the
So
question.
you don't answer the question.
No,
You
that's
say you don't know the
we're
answer.
explaining our understanding of the situation.
You explain your lack of understanding of the situation, sir, right? You say you don't know whether people pay and get out, correct?
My job as an editor.
Sir, I didn't ask you about your job as an editor. I asked what you put in the story. And what you put in the story is that you don't know
Sure.
whether or not, correct?
You said that. Yes.
Now, sir, the video airs at 5:38 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Now, at 6:14 p.m., that's just 35 minutes later, you tell Phillips that we are pausing it for digital. My fundamental question is not answered. But on TV, it's less of a problem. Dramatic, silhouetted interviews, and it zipped along, so less glaring. As a right, I think it works less well. Allison, that's your boss, right?
Yes.
Allison has read and agrees, correct?
That's what I wrote. Yeah.
Thank you, Corey. You can take that down. Now, Mr. Lumley, I'd like to take you through some other communications where you raised concerns about the reporting at issue in this case, okay?
I'm absolutely happy to.
We got more, okay?
Okay.
All right. Corey, can you put up Exhibit 174, please?
Mr. Friedman have all the receipts all the time. Now, this guy, Mr. Lumley, he's doing his best, but I have to still give props to him. He tried to pull the brakes on this story inside CNN, but he wasn't listened to. They should have listened to him. Listening to him and not the anchors and big journalists, if they had listened to Mr. Lumley, they would have saved. Well, we know Mr. Young got $5 million in lost wages and damages. And then we know that CNN settled for the punitive damages for an undisclosed amount. I would assume. I'm going to ask the question of Mr. Friedman, knowing he can't answer it. But if that settlement was, I would be extremely surprised if the punitive damages settled for under $25 million, because they were at the risk of between 200 and 400 million punitive damages.
Here, sir, you send an email at 5:55 p.m. and you send this email to Mr. Marquardt and Mr. Callahan, correct?
I see that. Yes.
You tell them that both you and Allison Hoffman, well, first you say, I watched the TV piece, was gripped, right?
Sure.
Pulled on your heartstrings, that piece, didn't it?
It was a good piece of television.
You say, I spoke to Allison H., that's Allison Hoffman, your boss, right?
Yes, that would be Alison Hoffman.
About this. We both agree that you should pass on this and not go, we should pause on this and not go into triad tonight. So please don't work into the evening on this, Alex, correct?
Sure. And pause is an important word. We didn't pass on it. We paused it.
Yep. You paused it, right?
Mhm.
And then you ended up publishing it, right?
Not
You're
that,
not sure you published a digital piece, sir? You published a digital piece?
No, sorry. I am talking about the written piece. I am not talking about the television piece. That's not my responsibility, the television piece. And I've got to say, if I had dramatic concerns about fairness or accuracy of the television piece, there would have been a different conversation. I'm saying it doesn't answer the question I'm interested in. I'm not saying I have any concerns about publishing that piece, that television piece, which is not my responsibility, or that television piece going on CNN's website. Just to be clear.
So to be clear, if you had major concerns about something that's not your responsibility, you would have had a completely different conversation. Is that your testimony today?
I don't think that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if I felt the piece, I wasn't responsible for the TV piece, so I can have an opinion. But if I'd read the TV piece and I thought there was some major problem with it, I'm sure I would have said something. That's not.
Sir, I think you did say something.
Yeah. But I didn't. Okay, sure. Let's go for it.
Corey, can you put up for a limited production?
And on the stand, he's doing his best. He's doing his best. But there's receipts. And Mr. Friedman has all the receipts.
The Plaintiff's Exhibit 218. And sir, at the bottom of this email, we see an email from Mr. Callahan to a variety of listservs at CNN that involves the digital piece, right? Or the video piece, right?
Yes, I see that.
Your Honor, plans to offer Exhibit 218 into evidence.
No objection. Plaintiff's 218 is admitted.
Mr. Hagan, can we please publish to the jury with the court's permission?
You may.
So, Mr. Callahan sends out this email. It's got a blast to a bunch of different listservs within CNN, correct?
I see that, yes.
Called Desperate Afghans Seeking to Flee the Country Face Exorbitant Fees. It says, from Alex Marquardt, Triad approved, Schenkman, Lacey Bordeaux, Hogan. Those are the members of Triad that approved, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then there's a link to be able to pull up the video, right?
I see that.
And it also includes, can you just move the stuff to the side so Mr. Lumley can see, Corey? It also includes the draft write-up, correct?
It does include a draft of a right. Yes, I see that.
So let's go up to what you said when you received this email. You email Ms. Hoffman and others at
All the receipts, all of them.
9:05 p.m., correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you say that Mr. Callahan and Alex put this infernal story through Triad, and he sent it out. Here it is. You see that?
I do see that.
You said, obviously, this is not how it's meant to work, and I would suggest this is still very much not ready for prime time. Do you see that?
Oh, he really, really tried to pull the plug on this story. He really tried to pull the brakes on this story. He really, really tried to warn them. And they ignored him. They all knew. Again, they all knew that this putting Mr. Young in that segment was a bad thing to do. If they only listened to Mr. Lumley, they would have saved 20, 50, 100 million if they only listened to him.
I do see that.
I still have my fundamental issue that it's not clear from the story whether anyone who pays these people ever gets out of the country or if it's all a con. Do you see that?
I see that.
And then you say, I might even argue that it is pretty flawed and we should consider foregoing the right and just having the video programmed, correct?
Those are my words.
Ms. Hoffman emails you back just 5 minutes later, doesn't she? She says, let's put a pin in it for tonight. It is not ready for prime time, correct?
Oh.
Yes.
Let's be clear, sir. It already aired on Primetime News with Jake Tapper by this time, correct?
We're talking about the text portion of the story. We're not talking.
Sir, you received
we're
the
not
link.
talking. We're not talking about the video part of the story. And I can explain.
Prime time is not text article. That's, oh God.
That quite clearly. So Alison Hoffman is the executive editor for CNN Digital. Megan Trimble, at the time, was the evening editor for CNN Digital. Kate Greaves, at the time, was the early morning editor for CNN Digital. I am saying there is a text version of the story there. As you saw, at roughly 6 p.m., I'd said to my colleagues that I want to pause this for tonight. So I am saying to my digital colleagues that I don't want to publish the version of the written story. The video story has already gone out.
It has already gone out on primetime news, right?
I mean, I think it's. I mean,
Sir,
I'm sure you guys. I'm sure.
It's been out on primetime.
No, it's been out on the Jake Tapper show. I don't think it meets. I think only 5:30 counts as primetime news, but it's been out on CNN. Sure.
5:30 Jake Tapper is not primetime news.
I think primetime's like the evening. Anyway, I mean that's
5:30 is not the evening.
I mean, I don't think that's a fundamental.
5:30 is the exact moment people get home from work. They sit down, they put on the TV to see, okay, what's on the news. Now, there's different kinds of prime times. You have the evening watchers, but then you have the just got home from work watchers. So there's different kinds of prime time, in my opinion.
Part of this case, but it's gone out on Jake Tapper's show. It's not the prime time slot at CNN. It's
at this point in time, you have reviewed the TV script, you have watched the TV episode, you have read the draft article, and you say it is not ready for prime time, correct? Are those statements correct?
I said that I'm referring to the text.
Thank you. No, actually, take it back. You didn't answer my question, sir. At this point, you made this statement after you had watched the video, read the TV script, and reviewed a draft of the article, correct?
I said that, but also I said I thought the TV piece was good. I'm talking about the text.
You said it was good from a storytelling perspective, sir, but then you said that it's got fundamental questions that it doesn't answer, correct?
Yeah, sure, I had questions,
You've answered the questions.
No, it didn't. Sure.
Now,
I actually don't think he answered the question. I think he was continuing. Mr. Friedman didn't like the answer. He was trying to cut him off.
We're doing a lot of talking over each other, so wait for his question to finish, wait for his answer to finish. If he's asking you a direct question, answer his direct question.
thank you, Your Honor.
So do you want to repeat the question?
I think we're okay, sir. Mr. Axelrod will ask it for you if you have anything else to add.
Sure.
So this reporting was terrible, wasn't it?
No.
Can we have a limited production, Corey, of Exhibit 217, please, just to the witness and counsel? So this is a Slack exchange between yourself and Megan Trimble, isn't it?
It is.
And it deals with the story at issue in this case, does it not?
Yes, the text there does, yes.
Your Honor, plans to offer Exhibit 217 into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, class 217 is admitted.
Mr. Hagan, with the court's permission, can we please publish?
You may.
Thank you, sir. I'm not sure I said this before, Mr. Lumley, but Ms. Trimble is another editor at CNN, correct?
Yeah, she was the sort of evening editor, sort of running the politics stories in the evening, basically.
And this exchange, it's in UTC, your hometown, as you said, and so it starts, you can convert it. It starts at 8:33 p.m. on November 11th, right?
Yep.
And that's just a few hours after the story aired on Jake Tapper, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And this exchange is about 30 minutes before you sent the email we just saw that reports the story as an infernal story. It's not ready for prime time and has a fundamental issue, correct?
I'm sure that must be the timing. Sure.
And in your first messages here, you're telling Ms. Trimble that Mr. Callahan and Mr. Marquardt put the story through Triad and sent it out, right?
I see that, yes.
And you say that that is not how it should work, right?
I see that, yes.
And Ms. Trimble agrees with you, doesn't she? She says, totally, yeah. I was reading in, and it still needs work, correct?
Yep.
Now, at this point, sir, you thought Alexander Marquardt was pissed off at you, right?
I don't remember exactly, but
There came a time when he was pissed at you, right?
I don't precisely remember because it's a long time ago. Maybe he was annoyed with me. But to be honest, I don't speak for Alex, so I don't absolutely know.
Corey, can we show the message at 1:50 a.m. UTC time?
Okay.
You say, I think this Alex all pissed off, right?
Those are my words.
So Lumley, tell me if I got this wrong, but it seems to me like you're questioning your sanity a little bit here because everyone is approving the story that you think is a disaster.
No, I'm clearly frustrated. That's quite evident. I'd paused the story, as you could say, or paused the story, the digital story. I'm going to say the written story because I think it gets confusing. The written version.
Written story it is.
And I basically said I didn't want to spend the evening working on it, and we'd come back to it the next day. And I'm a little bit surprised that it was sent, that a draft of the story was sent widely. So I am, as I have taken responsibility to edit the written version of the story, I am communicating with my colleagues that I want to carry on working on it, and that's not a version of the story that should be published on the website at that time. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic.
Corey, can you bring us to page 3 at 9:10 p.m. or 2:10 UTC, which would be 9:10 p.m. DC time? And the reason I asked you that question, Mr. Lumley, is because here you reach out to Ms. Trimble for some confirmation you're sane. At least that's what appears to me. Because you say to her, I know you're busy, but tell me if I'm wrong. I think the Alex story is a mess. You see that?
Those are my words.
In your view, sir, it had gotten worse since you edited it, correct?
I don't know about that. I do remember being frustrated about the writing. There was like some repeated words at the top of the story, but I mean, I'm sure we're going to go through what.
Let's go through.
So that seems the best.
Corey, can we look at the next message? You say, it's more of a mess than the edits I sent back. I just want it to live as a TV piece and they can program the video. I'm not even sure it's easily salvageable, right?
I see the word.
And Ms. Trimble agrees with you that it's a mess, doesn't she?
I mean, I just need to see what you said. But yeah, that seems the
Remember,
best.
you asked her, I know you're busy, but, I'm sorry to bother you, basically, but tell me if I'm wrong. She tells you, no, you're not wrong. It's messy, right?
I see that, yeah.
She says, I'd tell you if I thought we should put up, but it has some very sweeping claims up top without the details clearly showing what's going on, right?
I see that.
She agrees with you. It's a mess, right?
I don't want to speak for Ms. Trimble, but those are her words, sure.
Corey, let's highlight the portions of this document so we can get through it quickly, and let's zoom in. We'll go through it. You say back to Ms. Trimble, we're picking up at 2:11. You say back to Ms. Trimble, the story is full of holes like Swiss cheese, right?
Those are my words.
She writes back, agree. It is full of holes like Swiss cheese, right? And then she says, the story is 80% emotion, 20% obscured.
Wow. 80% emotion, 20% obscured fact. What they are talking about here is because Mr. Young's participation in the story is 1 minute out of 5 minutes. And the story about the Afghans who were more or less subject to human trafficking, that's emotion. And that part of the story is correct. A lot of Afghans were subject to scams, human traffickers. But Mr. Young was never a part of that. And that is the obscured fact in this entire story.
Fact, LOL, right?
I can't speak. I can speak for my words. I can't speak for Ms. Trimble's words.
Did you receive a message from Ms. Trimble, which said that she agreed with your characterization that the story was full of holes like Swiss cheese?
I see her words, yes.
So you did receive a message from her confirming she agreed with your characterization that the story was full of holes like Swiss cheese, correct?
Those are her words.
Correct?
I mean, yes, those are her words. I mean, they're there.
And then you also received a message from her telling you that the story was 80% emotion and 20% obscured fact, LOL, correct?
Sure, I genuinely don't know what that means, but sure, she said that.
So what is an obscured fact other than a lie?
I honestly can't speak for Miss Trimble, what she's saying there. I just can't.
Ms. Trimble goes on. She says, don't get me wrong. They could be con artists, which is terrible. And I believe these people are suffering. But we should be able to say that clearer, right? You receive that message?
That's what I see it, yes.
Yep. Let's scroll down, please. And you respond, you say, maybe there are some operators who you pay 50 grand and drive you to Pakistan. I bet there probably are. But either way, I don't think we can lay this out and not state if our reporting leads us to believe these people are legit or not, right?
I see that, yes.
Okay. Seems you sent the message twice. And then you go, Mike was arguing, that's Mike Callahan, right?
Must have been Mike Callahan. Yeah.
Mike was arguing, doesn't matter. But to me, it definitely does. I think this is a half story. Anyway, I'll deal with it tomorrow. I really hope it's calming down. Sir, when you say you really hope it's calming down, you're referring to the fact that Alexander Marquardt is pissed off at you, right?
No, absolutely not. I'm referring to Megan having a very busy evening. I'm absolutely not referring to Alex Marquardt there.
Okay.
Because I remember.
She seems to think you are, because she says, I think everyone is tiring themselves out, LOL, right?
Yeah, but she was dealing with other stories that night.
Okay, but then you go on to say, no, it's fine, I'm annoyed with Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I was annoyed. I
You were hoping it was calming down, right?
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely think I'm referring to something else there. But there, I own my words. I mean, I was kind of annoyed. I paused the story, and frankly, that had been sent out. I'm pretty sure it was when I was putting my kids to bed, my at then 6 and 3-year-old, and I was a little bit grumpy to be dealing with it at that stage. Sure.
So regardless of whether you were talking to Ms. Trimble about things calming down or Alex being pissed off about you calming down, you then say, I hope the drama subsides, right?
Yeah, I really think I'm referring to something else that Ms. Trimble's dealing with, but I absolutely can't remember. But those are my words. I wrote those words. But
have you seen the communications in this case that are now in evidence where Alexander Marquardt talks about a pissing match between the desk and digital?
no.
It's not what you're talking about?
Well, I haven't seen those communications, so I can't.
So this is the evening of November 11th at 9:25 p.m., right?
Sure.
That's 4 hours after the video aired on Jake Tapper, correct?
Sure.
And that's before the video aired again with Jim Acosta, Max Foster, Boris Sanchez, Amara Walker, and Michael Holmes on November 12th, 13th, and 14th, correct?
I take your word for it. I'm sure that's the case, but I don't know every time the package airs.
Okay, but November 11th comes before 12th, 13th, and 14th, right? Non-controversial.
Yeah, that's a non-controversial statement.
Okay. I want to move to your communications on November 12th, the next day, okay?
Of course.
But before I do that, I want to recap the communications we've just looked at on November 11th, okay?
Yep.
You said the story didn't answer a fundamental question, correct?
Those are my words, sure.
You said you were surprised, try to prove the story, correct?
I think you've quoted my words, sure.
You said the story was a mess, correct?
Those words, sure.
You said the story was not easily salvageable, correct?
I said that, but then I spent another day working on it. But yes, I said that.
You said the story was an incomplete story, right?
I'm sure. Have I said that? I said that.
You said the story was a half story, right?
Sure.
You said it was an infernal story, right?
Sure. I was kind of annoyed.
You
Sure.
said it was not ready for prime time, right?
Sure.
You said it's full of holes like Swiss cheese, right?
Okay.
You did, right?
I said, okay, sure. Yeah. I mean, I own my words. Sure.
Okay. Ms. Trimble said that it was messy And 80% emotion, 20% obscured fact, right?
I mean, she said that, sure.
And you've said these things to multiple people at CNN, right?
Sure.
Mr. Phillips, right?
I mean, yeah.
Ms. Hoffman, right?
Yeah,
Ms. Trimble, right?
yeah,
Mr. Callahan, correct?
yeah.
And Mr. Marquardt, right?
Sure, but I've also at no stage said that we're the television or digital that we've worked on a inaccurate or unfair story. I've never said that.
It's November 12th, okay?
Yeah, let's go to that.
Corey, can you get a limited production of Exhibit 195?
Every time this Mr. Lumley tries to negate anything of his words, Mr. Friedman has receipts.
Sir, we're looking at a Slack communication between yourself and Zach Wade, CNN's Senior Director of Editorial Product and Performance, correct?
Yeah, but I don't think that was his title at the time. But
Okay.
Yeah.
What was his title at the time?
I don't know, but I think he was. That's like early in the morning on the Friday, right? So that I believe he was basically what we call programming the CNN homepage. So he was basically deciding where different stories go on the CNN homepage. I don't know what his title was then, but I don't think it's the same title as now.
Was it a promotion or a demotion that he received?
I think he probably got a promotion, but I don't know what his title was at the time, but I know what he was doing then. He was deciding to put the stories on the CNN homepage.
Okay, so since the story, you received a promotion. Yes, is that a fair characterization?
I don't know. I don't want to speak to CNN personnel. That's not personal decisions that aren't my concern. I just know he has a different title now.
And sir, in these, Your Honor, plaintiffs offer Exhibit 195 in evidence.
No objection. All right, plaintiffs 195 is admitted.
Can we publish, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Hagan, please. Thank you. Sir, you seem to be trying to stop this mess of a digital piece from getting published, don't you?
I think precisely. Well, sorry. I'm actually commending the television piece to him, and then I'm saying the digital right that I might work it because I haven't finished working on it. This is 7:42. I think we finished working on the digital right at the end of that day. So I'm not trying to stop it. I'm not trying to stop anything. I'm telling him we've got a TV package ready, and sure, I have issues with the other one. So, but I'm actually commending the television piece that went on the Jake Tapper show.
Where?
Just flagging, this is a TV package from Alex Marquardt. I'm sending it to him.
Oh, so by saying just flagging this TV package, you are commending it?
I'm saying it's there. I don't send him things just randomly.
Well, I don't think you did, sir, because you go on to talk about the related digital right that you have big issues with. I don't think you're commending it. I think you're flagging it. Which one are you doing, sir?
I'm saying the digital right.
Are you commending it or flagging it?
I'm answering the question.
No, I'm doing two things. I'm flagging the video, and then I'm saying there's a digital right, and I have big issues. And I think it might work better as a video. At that time, it was a work in progress. But I'm saying it works as a video, 100%. 100%. I'm saying I'm 100% comfortable with that video going on our website, as I believe it did.
Even though you had fundamental questions with it?
Yeah, because I had questions about the storytelling. I did not have issues with the fairness and accuracy of the story.
Even though you were surprised, tried, approved it?
I mean, sure, I said that, but...
Wasn't true what you said.
No, obviously I said that, but it was... Then the next day took the story through Triad and
You changed the video?
No, the digital right. The digital right.
So the video that was published and republished, you never changed that, right?
Oh no, that's not my
Fundamental questions remain, right?
my questions about the storytelling. Sure, I had my questions.
You write here to Mr. Wade, you say, there's a digital right in the works, but I have big issues with it, and I think it might just work better as a video, right?
That's what I said.
And then down below at 1244 UTC, you tell him there's a bit of a digital news gathering disagreement. might get mentioned on 9 a.m. and here it is. Do you see that?
I see that.
That's because digital, that's you, didn't want it to move forward, and news gathering wanted it to move forward.
No, it's not. That's not the case. We were. It had been paused. It wasn't finished.
All right, we can take that down. Corey, going to get a limited publication of PX 200. And sir, these are Slack messages between you and Joe Ruiz, correct?
Yep, I see them.
And you are again talking about the piece at issue in this case, correct?
Yep, Alex Marquardt, Afghanistan story. It says there. Yep.
Your Honor, plaintiffs offer Exhibit 200 into evidence.
No objection.
All right, Claims 200 submitted.
Your Honor, may we publish?
May.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. So Joe Ruiz was the digital weekend editor, correct?
That is correct.
And he pings you at 10:23 a.m. on November 12th, right? That's the conversion to UTC?
Yes.
He says, morning, Tom. Anything to note for the weekend, right?
I see it. Yep.
You waste no time telling him what's on your mind, do you?
Sure.
You say, I may have an Alex Marquardt Afghanistan story. There was a whole saga yesterday with a shitty urgent off a TV package. Do you see that?
I do.
I'm working out if we can recast the reporting into something sensible for the weekend. Do you see that?
Yeah.
This is a very good catch by First Best Gigi. First of all, everybody say hi to Gigi, my first and best moderator on this channel. She has been with me since I started this. She found me somehow and she stuck to me. She says, it's very interesting the way Mr. Friedman asked questions. He leads the witness right into his receipts. I agree. This is good lawyering. And this is when you have good evidence and you have a witness that's not used to being interviewed or interrogated or on the stand. He makes it look so easy. Now, this isn't easy at all. This is the result of years of preparation. This is good lawyering.
You say, but need to negotiate with Alex.
Yeah. Yeah. We were discussing the story.
That's because it wasn't yet sensible, correct?
I mean, those are the words I used.
You were trying to negotiate with Alex Marquardt to make it sensible, correct?
We were, yeah. I mean, I don't think it was really a process of making sense, but we were working on the story, sure.
Thanks, Corey. Can take that down. Can I get another limited publication of 196, please?
And more receipts. Here comes more receipts.
And sir, we're looking at an email from yourself to Ms. Nicole Gayet, another reporter an experienced national security reporter at CNN that relates to the story at issue in this case, correct?
Yes, I see that.
Your Honor, plaintiffs offer Exhibit 196 into evidence.
No objection.
Claims 196 is admitted.
Your Honor, may we publish? Oh, thank you, Mr. Hagan. So, sir, this email from you to Ms. Gayet, am I pronouncing that right?
Gowat, yes.
Gowat.
Yeah.
This email from yourself to Ms. Gowat goes at 8:25 a.m. in the morning. Do you see that?
I see that, yeah.
This is another early morning attempt by you to stop the story?
No, there's no evidence of that. It's just me sending the story to Nicole, see what she thinks of it.
So you say there's a backstory behind this. That's the pissing match?
I mean, I would not describe it as a pissing match, but I guess because I'm saying that's the evening version of the story that was sent out.
So the backstory is that there's some drama going on. You're hoping the drama is going to calm down and
Sure, a little bit of drama, but
a little bit of drama. All right. You say to her, the backstory behind this, but I'd be interested in your thoughts on the urgent, right?
yes.
Now, Ms. Gowat, she has experience covering Afghanistan, including the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, correct?
She certainly wrote stories about it, yeah.
And you send her both the video that Triad has approved, that's that link at the bottom there, right?
Yeah, yes, so, yeah, that's the email I sent, sure. The email that Mike sent out, I see at 8:26 PM the previous evening, yeah.
And you ask if you tell her you'd be interested in her thoughts, right?
Sure.
All right, Corey, can you take that down and give me a limited production of Exhibit 211? Plaintiff's Exhibit 211. This is Ms. Gowet's response to you, sir, correct?
Yeah, I see it.
And it relates to the story at issue in the case?
Yes, it seems to, yes.
Your Honor, plaintiff's offer, plaintiff's Exhibit 211 into evidence.
Objection, Your Honor. It's irrelevant based on your order, your pretrial order. I'm looking at the paragraph at the bottom.
All right.
So pre-trial orders means that they went through all of this pre-trial and the judge made some findings. Now, in all of this, if a door is opened by the witness itself, then they can ask to get into this. This is what the CNN's attorney is objecting to. So let's see if Mr. Young's attorney has done enough to get this in.
So.
Just go through real quick.
And it's it's a sidebar. Now, this is after the fact, but I do believe this makes the sidebar counter 44! Yes, folks, on an 8-day trial, they had 44 sidebars. Oh, and thank you to Slidey Pie over at Rumble for your $1 Rumble rant. Was this witness on the stand in the trial? Yes, he was. We are not all of the witnesses here in this are depositions. I believe there's one more deposition after he leaves. After he leaves the stand. And I do believe the next deposition after this is a CEO of sorts.
It's a little after 12, and I think this is probably a good time to take a break.
Oh. So let's get after the break. And they're continuing.
Exit.
Did you speak with?
Under oath from this morning. All right. Ms. Friedman, whenever you're ready.
Welcome back, Mr. Lumley.
Thanks.
Sir, during the lunch break, did you speak with CNN's lawyers?
I mean, not substantively.
I'm sorry?
I mean, no, we just had lunch.
You just had lunch?
Yeah.
Did you talk with them about your testimony here today?
No, I did not.
Before the break, we were looking at an email that you had sent to Ms. Gowet,
Sure.
and you had asked her for her feedback on the urgent, right?
Yeah.
Corey, can we queue up for limited production PX 211? This was the document we were about to look at before the break, Mr. Lumley. And this is Ms. Gowet's response to you, correct?
Yep.
Your Honor, plaintiffs offer Exhibit 211 into evidence.
And subject to your objection, I'll overrule the objection. I'll admit plaintiff's 211.
Mr. Hagan, with the court's permission, can we publish?
You may.
So Ms. Gowett responds a few hours later, right?
I see it, yes.
November 12th, correct?
Yep.
And she starts off with a LinkedIn link that says, looks like it's Zachary Young, a link to Zachary Young's LinkedIn profile, correct?
I see that, yes.
She cites a news article. She says, puts him in Afghanistan in 2013.
Yeah, and to be precise, that looks divot to that. I think that's a image.
Okay, an image.
On a government sort of DoD website.
And then she says, here's one thought. It is probably seriously expensive to arrange and pay for the informers, fixers, security people, drivers, plane tickets, etc., that it would take to get people out of Afghanistan right now. Correct?
I see that, yes.
And sir, that does not seem to be a controversial statement, that it would be seriously expensive to evacuate from Afghanistan, correct?
Sure.
Correct, right? That's correct?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
And then she says, so the inference, excuse me. So she says the inference running through Alex's story, that these people are just bilking desperate Afghans for their money, might not be fair at all. Do you see that?
I do see that.
And she says, in the story, Zachary Young comes across as being a bit, I think she means bit, but she says but, right? In the story, Zachary Young comes across as being a bit brutal, but he could just be stating facts. This is what it costs. It would be great to talk to well-known groups and ask them what it costs them to get someone out of Afghanistan right now, correct?
I see it, yes.
Sir, you are not the only one who is flagging major issues with this story, correct?
She's asking questions. She's asking some questions about the story, or she's making suggestions on the story. I see that.
And she's saying that, hey, maybe it doesn't say this outright, but the inference running through the story, through Alex's story, that these people are just bilking desperate Afghans for their money, that might not be fair, right?
That's what she said. I mean, two observations of that. I disagree that is the inference running through that story. Also, she is, as I think we saw from the previous email, she was looking at the.
I mean, this is, yeah. More and more, I mean, even without this testimony, CNN was vehemently forked. But with this, I'm kind of questioning why they went low on the lost wages and damages. Because this, yeah, I would be so interested in knowing what the jurors actually, why they did. Now, it might be that Mr. Young, people just don't like that kind of business. It could be something like that. But with this kind of testimony, I don't really understand why, in my opinion, lowballing his damages and lost wages.
Earlier draft of the story that went out the evening before. She hasn't seen the story that by then I think we're still working on. She's not referring to the story that we published. And she's also, I don't know, but I think she's referring to the words, because she's a digital writer. The written piece she's referring to, the draft, the unfinished draft of the written piece that went out. She saw the week before, the night before.
You sent her a link to the video, correct?
That was in the email, sure.
A moment ago, you told me you could not speak for Ms. Trimble, correct?
Sure.
But now you can speak for what Ms. Gowett was speaking about? Why?
Because she knew I was the digital editor, and she knew I was working on the written story. But no, I can't speak for her. That's true. 100% true.
Okay, so you recant that then. You don't know what she was referring to, right?
My guess would be that she's referring to the text, but I do not speak for Nicole Gowett. Absolutely.
And Ms. Gowett she's a seasoned national security reporter, right? She's an experienced reporter.
Sure, she is.
She has experience covering Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely written stories about Afghanistan. I don't know if she's been to Afghanistan, but yes, she's written stories about Afghanistan. Yes.
And she's covered the U.S. withdrawal of Afghanistan, correct?
Yes.
She says the inference running through the story that these people are just bilking desperate Afghans for their money might not be fair at all, correct?
She said that. I disagree with her, and I don't think that applies to either the written story or the television story.
Did you listen to General Young testify that Mr. Young's prices are?
Objection. Accommodation. Listen here.
I mean, did he listen to him? I think he can answer that, but he wasn't in the courtroom.
Understood.
Sustain the objection.
Sir, are you aware that this trial is being live streamed?
Yes.
Were you listening to the live stream of the trial at
No.
any point in time?
No.
Okay, so Ms. Gillett's email is at 4:21 p.m., right?
I see that. Yes.
Corey, can we put up PX 215? It's in evidence. And let's go to the email from 5:57 p.m., which is an hour and a half after you received Ms. Gillett's email that the inference may not be fair, right?
Yeah, I see it, Simon.
And here, you are submitting the proposed final draft of the digital article to Triad, correct?
I see that.
And you say, for Triad, you put the name, some Afghans trying to flee the country face exorbitant costs as Blinken touts success of efforts to help Americans, right?
Yes.
And then you say that the article that you're submitting is a slight recast for digital of the approved reporting from Alex last night.
Oh,
So the approved reporting was the
oh, now, this is so good. You've all been listening to how this witness have been saying all along. Well, this was for the digital print. This was for the digital print. Now this is being turned around to, well, you knew that the aired segment was absolutely horse shit, didn't you? This is more evidence to that CNN knew the segment was wrong. That is why they changed bits and pieces to the digital print. Oh, what a setup! I did not see. This is so good lawyering.
video that aired yesterday. This is November 12th, at nearly 24 hours ago, right?
Yeah, that seems right. Yes.
And you are describing the article as a slight recast, correct?
Yeah, those are the words.
And you say it does not include new reporting, right?
Yeah, I don't think it did include new reporting.
You say it's reframed, right?
Yeah.
And includes Blinken from today. And you're speaking about Secretary Blinken, right?
Just state.
He made a statement about Afghanistan that day, right?
Yeah, he said, I forget, he said, they will get all Americans out of the country. Yes.
And then you added his comments into the digital article, right?
We included in the story, yes.
And you did a slight reframing, right?
Well, we did a full edit of the story.
It's a slight recast. It's reframed, right?
Yeah, it's an edit of the story.
And you tell people the video was approved by Schenkman from legal, right?
Yes, Drew Schenkman, the lawyer, yeah.
Lacey Bordeaux from
The standards department.
Standards Department, and Mr. Hogan from
Yeah. Row, which is the fact checking department.
Fact Checking Department.
Yeah.
The three legs of Triad, right?
That's right.
Oh, this is so good.
So let me see if I got this straight. This story that you're submitting to Triad is a slight recast of a story that is full of holes like Swiss cheese, right?
Well, I mean, I think that's just basically signaling for them they're familiar with the reporting. I mean, actually, it's reframed, it's edited. The text, it's a different story. It's the same basic reporting that they have seen and they are familiar with. It's a new edit of the story, and they are reviewing it.
It's a slight recast of a story that was full of holes like Swiss cheese, right?
It's a version of the story that I was happy for them to review because it was accurate, it was fair. There was a question that I was interested in answering. We said did Afghans pay? If they paid, would they leave the country? Would they not? And we didn't answer that question, and we said that in the story.
It's a slight recast of an infernal story, right?
I'm sure I use those words, but it's a story that met my high standards for CNN of accuracy and fairness.
It's a slight recast of a story that was a mess, right?
I mean, I think actually, sure. I mean, I said slight recast. It's an edit of a story that we worked on for most of that day, of a story that we stand by. I stand by, and my colleagues stand by.
Slight recast of an incomplete half story, right?
I mean, you can quote those. I use those words.
It's a story that had an unfair inference running through it that may not be true at all, right?
No, it's absolutely, that is not the case. And this is the story that we spent a day working on, and it meets all CNN standards, and we stand by. I stand behind it.
It's a slight recast of a story that was not ready for prime time, right?
Well, it wasn't ready for prime time. How many hours before? Like, I don't know, my math is bad. Like 21 hours before it's ready to go at 5:57.
Slight recast of a story that was 80% emotion and 20% obscured fact.
I didn't use those words.
Is a slight recast of a story that didn't answer a fundamental question.
There was a question I still wanted to answer. Sure,
Still hadn't answered it.
I was
Right?
interested in answering. Sure.
Okay. Isn't it true that this story that you sent to trial still had all these problems?
No, I mean, from a storytelling perspective, I would have liked to have got an answer to that question. We couldn't answer the question at that time. When we do stories, we can't always answer every question that we'd like to. But the key point about the story is that I believed, and my colleagues, the triad, which I don't know if we've discussed how the triad works in this courtroom, is a rigorous process. We take our jobs very seriously. Mr. Marquardt takes his job very seriously. Mr.
And you still said you can't believe the triad approved of it. You still.
Objection, narrative non-responsive.
Okay. The story was accurate.
Back to answering the question.
The story was accurate and fair and met our standards.
You still dislike this story a lot, didn't you?
Didn't love the story from a storytelling perspective. Not my favorite story I've ever done. That's true. But it's a fair and accurate story.
You still disliked it a lot, correct?
Sure, from a storytelling perspective, but it's a fair and accurate story.
It was still half a good story, wasn't it?
I would have liked to do more reporting, to maybe tell more of the story, but it was a fair and accurate story.
It was a fair and accurate half a good story, right?
It's a fair and accurate story.
Was it a half a good story or not, sir?
It was a fair and accurate story.
Was it half a good story? Yes or no?
It was a story, a fair and accurate story. In an ideal world, we'd have done more reporting to tell more of the story, but it's a fair and accurate story that CNN, and I'm happy to edit. I've been an editor, I've been a journalist for 20 years.
Objection, Your Honor. Okay. Non-responsive narrative response.
Yes, question.
Sir, was it half a good story? Yes or no?
It was a story I would have liked to have done. There's more story that I would have liked to tell, but it was a good story. in that sense.
Can't say it today.
I can't say what.
You can't say it's half a good story today on the stand, can you?
What do you mean?
I'm asking you if it's half a good story, and you won't say yes or no. Was it half a good story?
It's a story that I would have liked in an ideal world to have done more reporting on, but we are a team. We all have different opinions.
Jesus
We
Christ.
are all experienced. I slightly disagree with my colleagues on whether there was more story, I think the point was whether we could have done more reporting to tell more of a story. But sure, I mean, if I said half a good story, those are my words. But the key point is, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but it strikes me that the crux of this case is whether our story was defamatory, unfair, and inaccurate.
Objection, Your Honor. Narrative non-responsive. Sir, you really should have carried on and reported it out more, shouldn't you?
No.
You still had too many outstanding questions, didn't you?
If I use those words, I had questions, but sure.
Sir, what do you mean if you use those words? You still had too many outstanding questions, right?
No, by definition, I didn't because he published the story. So,
But Jesus Christ, all the receipts, your own words it was half a story. You agreed with 80% emotion and 20% obscured facts. You agreed it was a Swiss cheese kind of story. This is so bad.
You still had a major problem with it, right?
I think consistently throughout the process, I was really interested in that particular question that we discussed before.
No, sir. When you submitted this version of the story to Triad, you still had a major problem with it, correct?
Not really. I mean, because we couldn't answer my question, so we put in the story what we knew.
Corey, can you push this exhibit to the left side? The submission of the story to Triad. Can you blow up 5:57 p.m. for me? The time Mr. Lumley submitted the story to Triad. Let's push that off to the side. And can we bring on the right side Plaintiff's Exhibit 208, which is already in evidence? Mr. Lumley, these are your text messages with Fuzz Hogan, one of the members of Triad that you submitted the story to for approval, correct?
Yes, I see that.
And you see that the time is 10:58 p.m. of the highlighted messages. And when you convert UTC back to DC time, that 10:58 there turns into 5:58 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Objection. Inaccurate. It's 6 hours. He's leading the witness.
Why don't you ask Mr. Lumley, he may be most knowledgeable about what the UTC time would be in these raised.
Oh, you know what? I think he's right because I think the clocks have changed. Well, I mean, I don't know. When did daylight saving time come in?
November 7th, 2021.
It's normally 5 hours, but
Daylight saving times fall back.
and UTC is actually, you know what? I'm not an expert on UTC, but I don't believe.
Sir, you say right here, sorry sent that story. You see it? Right
Yeah, I see
after
it.
you sent the story. It's 1 minute later.
I mean, I don't know. I don't remember. But all I can see.
Maybe Mr. Axelrod will come take the stand and testify for us.
All right.
Objection. Move to strike. And we'll take judicial notice of what time it is.
Stop. Either one of y'all testify. If there's an issue we got to resolve on UTC, either resolve it through a witness who's knowledgeable about it, or we'll resolve it some other way.
Sir,
Ask a question now, Mr. Freeman.
so you're knowledgeable in UTC. You're from London, right?
London is on GMT. I can't be.
You have been
UTC,
talking about,
I
yes, the
believe,
time
is what
stamps are
UTC
correct.
is.
This entire testimony.
The clocks change in the UK. The clocks like UTC is not the UK. UTC is like little time. I know, I really don't want to resolve a dispute about the time. I'm an editor at CNN. That's not my area of expertise. But I know the time difference between London and the US is 5 hours for most of the year. Not, there's a couple of weeks when it isn't, but.
In November, that change has already been done.
Your Honor, I think Mr. Axelrod has a good idea.
And he still says, sorry, sent that story, still dislike it a lot. So this entire exchange where Mr. Lumley tried to say he stands by it, clearly he doesn't. Clearly he doesn't.
Why don't we take judicial notice of the time change?
I may have it wrong. I don't think I do, but I might.
Do we have some authoritative statement on
In November.
2021?
Both UK and US have the same time, the same
Are we all
UTC.
stipulating that there's a 5-hour difference between the UTC time and the Eastern Standard Time?
It changes, Your Honor,
Or
but
is it Eastern Standard or Eastern Daylight Time?
it changes, Your Honor, but as of this date, I can tell you because I checked it numerous times, it is 5 hours.
Okay, sure.
So, Mr. Lumley, 5:57, you submit the story to Triad, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, before you go on, are we all stipulated there's a 5-hour difference?
After November 7th of 2021, it's 5 hours. Before that, it's, I think, 4 hours.
Okay,
I don't remember when it changes. I'll stipulate that this document is 5 hours back.
for
For
November
November
12th.
12th.
All right.
Ready, Mr. Lumley?
Yeah, sure.
You submit your final version to Triad at 5:57 p.m., correct?
I see that, yes.
1 minute later, you tell Mr. Hogan, one of the members of Triad, that you sent him that story, right?
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
And you then say, I still dislike it a lot, right?
Sure, it's throughout the whole process, it's not been my favorite story. Sure.
Then, sir, 18 minutes later,
And more
we're
receipt.
down, Corey, to 18 minutes later. 18 minutes later, you tell Mr. Hogan
Oh,
that the Alex story is not poetry in any way, right?
I see that, yeah.
You say, I just want to publish something to diffuse some drama, right?
I see that, yes.
I'm sorry.
Do you need a water or anything?
I have one, thank you. I'm sorry.
More important.
Oh, he
You
tried
say,
to not say.
I just want to publish something to diffuse some drama, right?
Those are my words.
You wouldn't say it today, Mr. Lumley, but then you said, I also think it's half a good story, right?
Sure, those are my words.
Then you say, we should have carried on and reported it out more, right?
Sure, those are
2
my,
minutes ago, you wouldn't agree with that statement, wouldn't you?
sure.
But back then you did, right?
I see the words.
Now, Mr. Hogan, he responds, right?
Yes, these words.
He tells you, right, it feels like a good character, but he only got 3/4 of the way to the larger.
That's what he said.
TV Peace was a good watch, you said, but I have too many outstanding questions. You see that?
I see that.
2 minutes ago, you wouldn't agree with me that you had too many outstanding questions, would you?
I had questions from a storytelling perspective. I did not have I was absolutely fine publishing the story because it met our standards of fairness, of accuracy.
You, an hour ago, an hour and a half ago, whatever, you said explicitly in those receipts that you couldn't believe it got through Triad.
had questions about how we told us and what more we could find out. But it's, in my view, it's not a defamatory story.
Mr. Hogan, one of the members of Triad that approved the digital video and eventually approved your piece, right? Writes back, right. He agrees that it has too many outstanding questions, doesn't he?
He doesn't agree with that from the perspective of approving the story because he approved the story. But also I can't speak for Fuzz Hogan.
I don't understand how those two coexist, sir. How do you know what he's saying if you can't speak for him?
Okay, well, I will not even presume to speak for them then.
Okay, so
I think you spoke to him.
Let's read on the page. You say TV Piece was a good watch, but for digital, I have too many outstanding questions. Answer right.
Okay, well, that's what he wrote, and I won't try and interpret that.
He approved it anyways, right?
He did. He approved the story.
Can we scroll down? Oh, sorry, Corey. I lost my place. You say all of this, all of these things, that it's half good story, should have reported it, carried on reporting it out more, that you had too many outstanding questions, that you still had a major problem with it. You say all of that within 20 minutes of submitting the story for final review to Triad, don't you?
That seems to be the case, yes.
Sir, Mr. Hogan isn't the only one that you told that final story is garbage to, correct?
I didn't say it was garbage, but I'm sure. Show me what you're going to show.
Potato.
I didn't use the word garbage. I certainly didn't. I did not use the word garbage.
Sir, you tell Joe Ruiz the same thing, don't you?
I don't remember, so you're going to have to show it to me.
All right. Corey, can we put up PX 200?
All this,
Let's put it side by side
All of
with
them.
PX 215 so we can reference it in time.
all of
So
the
here on
receipts.
the side, on the left-hand side, we've got 5:57 p.m. is your submission of the story to Triad, right?
I see it, yeah.
And here at 11:06, so 6:06 p.m., you reach out to Joe Ruiz, right? Just 9 minutes after you submitted the story to Triad, right?
Yeah, I see that.
And you tell Mr. Ruiz that you had been fighting with Alex on this mediocre story all afternoon, right?
Huh? Mr. Lumley, you've been on the stand for an hour and a half. You know this, Mr. Attorney Friedman, have the receipts, and you still try to avoid it. Oh, this is so good.
I see the words, yeah.
Then you tell him it's now in Triad for approval, right?
Yep.
And Mr. Ruiz recognizes your message. He says, okay, right?
Yep.
And now 9 minutes after you submit this final story, you say it's not worth the hassle, to be honest, right?
I see the words.
You say it's half a great story, right?
Yeah, that's my words, sure.
You couldn't say it here today once. You said it twice back then, right?
Yeah, I think I've said that I had a question about the story and it's not the greatest story I've edited. I think I have said that today, actually.
Mr. Ruiz responds to your comments, right?
Yeah,
Thinks it's funny.
sure. Well,
Says, ha ha, in all caps, right?
okay.
Sir, CNN's malicious journalism just destroyed a man's life, and Mr. Ruiz thinks it's funny, doesn't he?
No, I think he's just. And what? No, do you know? I don't speak for Mr. Ruiz, so I can't interpret that.
We'll ask him. You go on to explain why the story you submitted to Triad for approval is problematic, don't you?
Well, there's my words. I mean,
You say the fact that we don't have the other half is a major problem in my view. Don't you say that?
those are my words.
So the story you submitted to Triad is nearly identical to the final story that's published, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I think so. I don't know. Actually, I don't remember, but I think it's similar.
Would you like to compare them?
I mean, if you want to, but I don't remember a lot of extra edits happening after that.
Corey, can we put on the screen 215, which is the submission to triad, and 223, which is the final published story. Okay, on the left side, can you scroll down to the story for me, Corey? Your Honor, to expedite our way through here, I have paper copies 215 and 223. I have copies for you too.
Okay, thanks.
May I approach?
Good, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Why don't you show me the differences, sir?
You're going to have to give me a minute. Are you telling me there are no differences? I
Oh,
don't.
no, there are some. Would you like me to point them out to you?
I mean, sure, go ahead.
All right. I made a little red line for myself.
Okay.
Can we scroll down here, Corey? In the character here, but in addition to, can you highlight in addition to those Americans? No, Corey, don't zoom in, just, can you highlight in addition to those Americans? That's new. To see here where it says U.S. Agency for International Development, can you highlight that for me, Corey? In this story, Corey, it just said USAID. See here? Can you highlight that? That's new. There's no guarantee. We go to the Barmata paragraph. The word location is turned to locations. Oop, I lost my place. I saw it before. It's the paragraph that says that's not a lot of information on these folks. Scroll up a little bit. There we go. Here, this paragraph, the word location. Here, this became locations. Can you highlight over here, Corey, bottom paragraph? There it is. Then let's go to the drop off his son. Became, it was drop his sons off, it's now drop off his sons. Can we go to the next page? The words he says are new, Corey. There was a has here, but it was deleted, so why don't we make a little yellow mark over here after father. Instead of special immigrant interest visas, it became immigrant visas. Withdrawal, what used to be was, it's now is. Let's highlight is. In this paragraph, I think it's a typo in the word LinkedIn was fixed. The word who is here. This Young used to be he. He appears. This word at is added. And Arab UAE got turned into United Arab Emirates. Let's go to the way end of the story. The words Congress, where are we at here? Congress, this used to be a and, it got turned into a to. Says he is added. Instead of he has spent, it's he says he has spent. You get that right, Mr. Lumley?
I wasn't following fast enough. I don't know. I have no reason to believe that's not correct.
It's the same story, sir, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mr. Lumley, from the second you saw this story, you knew it was fundamentally flawed, didn't you?
No.
You're the only one in CNN that had a conscience. Isn't that right?
No, I think, what? Sorry, I'm the only person in CNN who has a conscience.
You wanted to do the right thing, didn't
The
you?
whole of CNN who has a conscience? No, I'm not the only person in the.
You tried to stop the story from being published, didn't you?
I published the story.
So you reached out to so many people, didn't you?
I didn't try to stop the story being published.
Reached out to Mark Hard, Callahan, Trimble, Ruiz, Hogan, Hoffman, Gowett, right?
Oh, sure, we see my communications with them.
None of them listened to you, did they?
No, because I edited a story and worked on a story with Alex Marquardt and my colleagues on the Triad and Mike Callahan and my executive editor Alison Hoffman. I discussed the story with her. We did the story.
You fought to stop the story being published till Alex Marquardt got pissed off at you, and there was drama going on inside of CNN, right?
No, because I wasn't trying to stop the story being published, and I published the story, and I worked with Alex on the story, and we published the story. It's here.
Eventually, sir, you capitulated, didn't you?
No, because I worked on the story, and we put out a story.
You published the story in your own words to diffuse the drama, right?
I did use those words, and some drama was diffused, but that was not why I published the story.
We're under oath here today. You recall that?
I do.
Are you scared you may not have a job if you don't toe a party line?
No.
Will you stand up for the truth now?
Yes.
Will you admit the story should not have been published?
I will not.
Will you look this jury in the eye and tell them that you will publish the same story again?
Yes, I will.
You're not sorry, are you?
Why should I be sorry?
Are you sorry?
No, there's nothing for me to be sorry about.
No further question.
Oh, yeah. This is good. This is good. Oh. Now I assume redirect. I don't really care about the redirect. Let's see if, or a cross-examination, to be honest. Let's see here. Do we have redirect? Let's see here if I can find it. Ah, there is redirect.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Sir, Ms. Laxer, I'll just ask you a few questions. And he opened, I believe, with, can you describe today what was your fundamental question? Do you recall when he asked that?
Yes.
And I believe you said your fundamental question wasn't that you were concerned about Zachary Young or anything like that, right?
I think I said the question was that I wanted to know what happened to the people who paid the money and whether they. I mean, that's what I said. I don't think I mentioned Mr. Young.
Corey, can you bring up PX 218 for me?
Oh, he has
Let's
receipts.
go to email at 9:05.
Of course, he has receipts.
Can I have it, Your Honor? Can we zoom in on Mr. Lumley's email? And I still have my fundamental issue that it's not clear from the story whether anyone who pays these people ever gets out of the country or if it's all a con.
I see that, yeah.
So put aside what you said today for Mr. Axelrod. At the time, sir, your fundamental question was whether the people are paying are actually getting out or just getting conned. That was your unanswered fundamental question, correct?
I think it's a very similar question.
Okay. Or you can take that down. Sir, you also testified just a moment ago that it's common to have the sorts of discussions we saw today at CNN. Do you recall that?
Yeah, we have robust discussions about our reporting, yes.
And do you commonly call stories half stories?
I commonly probably raise issues with stories, sure.
Are you commonly surprised that Triad has approved stories?
I don't remember. I don't think I use that language all the time, sure.
Not common.
Not common, but I think I also explained that actually I understand why Triad approved the story, and as I've said, I stand by the story that I edited, and I was happy with the process, for sure. I mean, my words are my words. I can't, I said those things, sure.
Now, Mr. Axelrod asked you some questions about Megan, was it Trimble?
Yeah.
And I think you said she had nothing to do with the story before you messaged her, right?
No, she wasn't working on the story, no.
So that means that when she received the first story from you, the first time she read it, it was a unbiased opinion on it, right?
Sure.
Corey, can you bring up PX 217 for me?
Oh, this is so good.
Scroll down to Ms. Trimble's comments about the story.
Well, thank you for SM1. Who says, watching these cases twice with Unique is the best entertainment. I hope your channel grows and you get enough monetization to do this full time. I could watch a commentary every day. That is so nice of you. So nice of you. Would I do this full time if I could? Yes, if I could. Where would I need to be? Well, I would need to be at somewhere between 60 and 100,000 subscribers. And I would need roughly 1,000 views per hour just for the ad revenue. And then, somewhere in that region. Then I could do this full time. Would I quit my job? No. I will never quit my job. I'm so happy doing labor law, and there's so much wrong going on in that segment. I will have stuff to do the rest of my life. I just can't let that go. And would I go down in work hours? Yeah. Would I be more selective? Definitely. But would I quit my day job? No, I can't. I can't. So, yeah. So honor 60 to 100K without dying. Yeah. For you who don't know, Connor here is Jeff Legal Wise's son. And he has as dark humor as his dad and me. And yeah. Oh, that. Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, but somewhere in that region. Okay, so let's get back to let's get back to the trial. Ow.
So totally, yeah, I was reading it and it still needs work. Let's keep going down. Keep going.
Hey, I got raided by Torin. Thank you, Torin. Thank you so much. Everybody needs to subscribe to Torin. That is the best ASMR on YouTube. He's doing these Japanese braids, and they are amazing. And I think now he's doing small block builds of the Taj Mahal or something. And it's, I watch it because it's one of his and Valhalla's baby goat streams. If I'm not actively streaming, that's the thing. Who doesn't love baby goats? Who doesn't love good people doing good work? So yeah. Oh, you were doing Lego. Is that the Taj Mahal build? But we need to get more to the trial.
Let me zoom out a little bit, Corey, so we can get down faster. I think it's farther down, Corey. All right, here we go. So, unbiased Megan Trimble reads the story and tells you, when you say, I know you're busy, but tell me if I'm wrong. I think the Alex story is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
She responds, no, it's messy. I'd tell you if I thought we should put it up, but it has some very sweeping claims up top without details clearly showing what's going on, right?
Yes, it was.
And then she says, you say, we can't say whether these people are con artists or not. Sir, at this point, the story only named Zachary Young, isn't that right?
Yeah, it only names Zachary Young, but it features and quotes other people who are being quoted large amounts of money. I'm not sure, and not all of them by Zachary Young. So
1 moment ago, Mr. Axelrod asked you under oath whether you ever raised an issue about whether this was unfair to Mr. Young. You said no. Do you recall that?
yeah,
And here we're looking at a message from you on November 12th where you are raising an issue about Mr. Young. We can't say whether these people, that's Mr. Young, are con artists or not. Isn't that true?
no, and I have the story in front of me. We're talking about Afghans who are desperately quoting.
Oh, the Afghans are, you're not sure whether the Afghans are.
No, the people who are being quoted by operators.
Oh,
I'm not concerned about the treatment of Mr. Young, and also that's a storytelling question. That's not an accuracy and fairness question.
Let's break this down one by one. Who you're concerned about and whether it's a storytelling question or not, okay? Let's start with the first question. Who are these people? The operators? You say we can't tell whether these people are con artists or not, correct?
Those are the words.
And who are these people in your statement? The operators, right?
Sure.
And who, sir, is the only operator that was named in your draft story and in your published story?
The only one named is Zachary Young.
So you lied to us a moment ago, right?
No, I did not lie to you. I did not lie to you.
Let's go back to the unbiased Megan Trimble. Exactly. Like I'm reading this and not getting a real sense of what the deal with these flights are. She writes, it's hung up on one source / anecdote. Do you see that?
Yeah, I actually don't.
If you saw that.
Okay, yes, I saw that. Sorry.
All the reasons. Hi, Torin.
No, thank you, Corey. You can take that down. We looked a moment ago at the story you submitted to Triad and then the final published version. Do you recall that?
I do, yes.
And we said there's no real difference between the two, correct?
Yeah, it was close, yeah.
And then we looked at all of your comments criticizing the final version that went to Triad and was published, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mr. Axelrod showed us a different red line. He showed us a red line, a demonstrative, that took the first draft of the story and compared it to the final one, right?
Right.
All right, let's take a look at that again. Corey, do you have DX195? Let's see what's really different here. You add a title. Some Afghans trying to flee the country face exorbitant costs as Blinken touts successive efforts to help Americans, right?
Yeah, sure.
You strike out with the Taliban solidifying control in Afghanistan and conditions steadily worsening, and you replace it with a statement saying Afghans desperate to flee the country, increasingly having to negotiate with private operators like Mr. Young.
Mr. Young was, I guess, was a private operator, sure.
You know he didn't actually take any money from an Afghan ever, right?
I don't know, no.
Court has found that already.
Okay, but I haven't been following the trial, so.
Okay, so you add in that Afghans desperate to flee the country increasingly have to negotiate with private operators charging exorbitant sums. So you're talking about an interaction between an Afghan and a private operator, correct? Where money is exchanging hands, correct?
I mean, those are the words that's the change of the story, sure.
Oh, you ass. Even though you knew this wasn't correct, that there was no evidence of Mr. Young, you had enormous amount of questions, you still went with it. You still went with that. Oh, you ass.
Sure.
Then you quote Secretary of State Anthony Blinken's statement that he offered that day, right?
I see that, yeah.
And you put in the statement that fewer than 100 American citizens, right? And then you added another paragraph. But in addition to those Americans, there are countless Afghans, including thousands who work for or aided the United States, believe they are in danger of being targeted by Taliban, who are frantically trying to leave, right? You are building the desperation of these individuals who are supposed to be negotiating with private operators, aren't you?
We're telling the story of our reporting, sure.
I agree. Then you say the increased sense of desperation and limited space on evacuation routes have fostered a private market, with private operators demanding exorbitant amounts, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, to transport people outside the country by different means and routes with no guarantee of success, right? The operators include individuals and groups, but you don't name anyone, do you?
No, I mean, this is our reporting, sure.
Let's look at the rest of your edits. Scroll up for me, Corey. You change USAID, you change individuals to people. Here you strike some details about the total amount being 10,000 per person to 100,000, but you just put it right back in on the bottom, right?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And then you strike the thing about the Biden administration because that was an echo of Secretary Blinken's stuff on the top, right?
I can't remember exactly why we changed that, but sure, you're showing me.
Okay. Then you add in CNN is not naming the Afghans seeking to flee, because this is a story about people charging Afghans, people negotiating with Afghans negotiating with private operators, right?
I mean, no, we're not naming the Afghans for their safety. So that's another example of us explaining what we're doing to the reader.
Can we scroll down, please, a little bit? You have some additional stylistic edits, continue switches to take off. Thousands more Afghans want to leave, and many, you add in this, right? Many are turning to potentially unscrupulous operators. You added that, right?
We added it. I don't know who added it, but sure, we seen it.
Mm-hmm. And the potentially unscrupulous operators, who's the only potentially unscrupulous operator that you name in this article, Mr. Lumley?
I think if we were really wanting to say that Mr. Young was an example of this unscrupulous stuff, we'd have included, we did.
Let him answer and see if he's responsive.
I think what you're saying is, I think if we wanted to say outright Mr. Young was an unscrupulous operator, he would have been up the story there. He's not. He's down the story.
So that's why this is a defamation by implication case too. You didn't say it exactly in this particular sentence, but you implied it, didn't you?
I don't think so in this text, no.
I'm going to ask you again, sir. Who is the only potentially unscrupulous operator that you named in this article?
Zachary Young is the operator we mentioned in this article, and we quote Mr. Young. But yes, he's mentioned in the article, sure.
Not my question, sir. My question is, who is the only potentially unscrupulous operator that you named in this article?
The only operator we named in the article was Mr. Zachary Young.
The only unscrupulous operator you named in the article was also Zachary Young, correct?
The only operator we named in the article was Mr. Young.
Again, you can't say it this wrongly, can you?
I can't say it.
So say it. The only unscrupulous operator you named in the article was Mr. Young.
No, the only operator we named in the article was Mr. Young.
Okay. Then you add in, there's no guarantee, right?
Right.
So could anybody guarantee an evacuation out of Afghanistan?
No, but that's, sure, but that's,
Some more stylistic edits. You strike the word that. I'm not sure why location is. Oh, you change location to locations. You switch the location of the word off. You added some more detail about the long-time contractor who can't get out of Afghanistan. You add something about a recommendation letter. You changed, he had just to last week. You changed interest to immigrant. Instead of withdrawal, the American help has dried up, you said is no longer help, right?
right, sure. You've got the red line showing the edits.
And you add another sentence about spokesperson since August, talking about thousands of SIV applications have been submitted. So you're talking about how many people are trying to get out, right?
Yeah, the SIV applicants, yeah.
All right, then you quote the State Department official about talking about how he's trying to expedite getting people out, right?
Yeah,
Then you get down to Mr. Young, right?
I see it, yeah.
And you decide that it would be nice to tell the world where the unscrupulous operator who's bilking desperate Afghans is located and residing, right? Maybe, right?
Yeah, but not, we didn't know, because we're not saying, we're saying Young appears to have recently, we did not write Young who appears to be bilking desperate. So no, but we did add those words, but we did not, we didn't have the words you just said, but sure.
In case the authorities in Austria maybe wanted to look him up, they could know he had just been there, right?
I mean, that's kind of a ludicrous reading of why we added that language. We added that language because our audience would be interested where Mr. Young was located. And
That is less ludicrous.
you suggested that I was the person who had massive problems and reservations about the story, and now you're suggesting I was rewriting the story to impeach your client.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I did suggest you had massive reservations. You did, sir, but you eventually capitulated to the gods of media over here, didn't you?
The gods of media?
Yeah, you just
gods of media? Sorry, who are the gods of media?
Your bosses at CNN that are employing you right now. They put pressure on you. You wanted to diffuse the drama, and you eventually went all in, didn't you?
The gods of media. I'm sorry, I just find that a little, with all due respect, because I'm sure you're a very good lawyer, that's silly. I didn't capitulate to anyone. My bosses at CNN are not gods. They are journalists, they are managers, and they are people that I respect.
Then why did you put aside your morals and publish the story?
Objection, Your Honor. It's argumentative. You don't have to insult the witness to ask a question.
And you add, that's how economics work, right?
It's a subhead, it's a quote from Mr. Young. Sure.
Let's scroll up. You change the word E to Young, UAE to United Arab Emirates, call to set. You strike out the fact that Mr. Young wouldn't engage with people if they didn't have a sponsor. Young did not respond to the father's outreach and stopped engaging with another person when he said he didn't have a sponsor. You struck it out, right?
Yeah, as I said, and also the
We'll get there now. We'll get there next.
that was struck out. It may have been triad, but sure, we struck it out.
Then you struck out the profanity in the next sentence, right?
Sure.
In accordance with CNN standards and policies that don't allow profanity unless necessary for the story, correct?
I don't remember exactly. I actually think that was triad, but sure, it was struck out. We will use profanity if it's germane to the story.
And now you plugged all the Swiss cheese holes by putting in the sentence, CNN has not confirmed whether these operators charging the high fees have successfully evacuated anyone who paid to exit the country, and you tack on as Young claimed, correct?
We added that line, sure.
some more stylistic edits. Right?
Sorry, yeah, you carry on. Yeah, sure.
And then you added that Katie Bo Williams, now Katie Bo Lillis, contributed to the report, right?
Yeah, because she contributed reporting to the report, sure.
So we have now covered all the changes from start to finish, correct?
Sure.
This is what you called in your email to Triad a slight recast of the digital story, sir, correct?
Sure, those are the words, sure.
And am I to understand that these slight recast edits are what changed the story from being a mess, being not easily salvageable, to being an incomplete story, from a half story, from an infernal story, from not being ready for prime time, for being holes like Swiss cheese, from being 80% emotion and 20% obscured fact, into good journalism?
We edited the story and we published the story, as I've said numerous times, met our CNN standards.
No further questions.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you get a question for Mr.
Oh, jury questions. Jury questions. Oh, this will be good. Oh, this will be good. This will definitely, if there are enough of them, this should definitely be a separate video. Yes, folks, in order for my audience or the part of the viewers who only watch videos and highlights, I will cut out parts of my live streams and make highlight reels of them. Oh, J-Ro had a question. Nick, why do they let these guys keep saying yeah, sure instead of yes? It's super annoying. Probably to save time. Because he is more or less saying yes with that. And it makes him look stupid by not actually answering because the jury sees the receipts. They see it. And they also see this guy trying to avoid saying yes. Okay, let's see what the to make it easier for me to find it. Dun dun dun, a swoop. Yes, folks, that is the Norwegian fire farting dragon I use as a swoop. All right, now let's go. Jury questions for Mr. Lumley.
You're right. All right. There were no juror questions for Mr. Lumley, so you're free to step down. Plaintiff's got another video deposition to play. That's somewhere.
Aw.
At 10 till 3.
Aw. I'm so disappointed. I was hoping for questions, but all right. Next deposition. This guy is, I've heard about him. All right. Next deposition.
Can you just state for the record your full name?
Yeah, it's Adam Levine.
So just like last time, you understand the testimony you give here today is under oath and just like you're testifying in court?
I do.
So who do you work for?
I work for CNN.
And how long?
Folks, Adam Levine is Senior Vice President of News and Executive Editorial Things at CNN's Washington Bureau. This is one of the head honchos. He's a big dude. He's a big deal in CNN. So, let's just first check. It's almost 4 a.m. here. Let's see how long this will be. Where are we at? 6:41. Yeah, so it's under an hour. Yeah, we can make it before I'm off to work. Oh, wrong one. Let's get this to 1.25 speed. Mr. Levine.
How long have you been employed there?
26 years.
And what is your title?
I am a Senior Vice President for News in Washington.
And do you understand that you're here today as CNN's designated representative?
Yes.
So unlike last time where you were testifying in your personal capacity, you're here to provide testimony on behalf of the company, right?
Correct.
Without giving me, when did you meet with counsel to prepare for today's deposition?
Over the last few days.
And about how long each day did you meet with counsel?
Several hours.
And who is it? I guess at the time back in November 2021, who did you report to?
Virginia Mosley?
Are you familiar with somebody named Michael Bass?
Yes.
So Mr. Bass is a high-level executive in the organization.
Right.
Is that true also of Ms. Mosley?
Yes.
Do you understand this to be a signal conversation between Mr. Young and Mr. Marker?
Is it Signal or is it iPhone?
I believe it's a signal check.
Okay. I'll accept that.
Okay, and you see here on the second page where Mr. Young wrote, "That's definitely not a realistic deadline. In any case, I can tell you for sure some of your facts assertions are not accurate, and if they are published, I will seek legal damages."
Yes.
And so, just for the record, this is document date stamp CNN 000053 and ending 000055. Have you ever seen this before?
Yes.
And was this also one of the documents reviewed as part of your preparation for today's testimony?
Yes.
And do you understand this to be, I guess, a picture of a signal conversation between Mr. Young and a Miss Lillis, or I think at the time, Miss Williams?
Yes.
And I go to the end of it here. You see at the end of the message where it says, Mr. Young writes, "In any case, the focus of your article seems pretty clear at this point. As you proceed, I would just appreciate if you would take the time to make sure you have your facts right to avoid libel."
Yes.
Were any of these messages ever submitted for review by any part of the triad process?
I don't know if they looked directly at the actual text messages or just had them described to them.
What could Mr. Young have done to put CNN on notice of a potential lawsuit in the event it published the story beyond saying, "I will seek legal damages if you publish the story"?
I mean, if Mr. Young had a lawyer reach out to CNN and say cease and desist, that would have probably given us some pause.
He told you he would take legal actions if you did him wrong. You had everything you needed to stop this story, to remove him, or just make him. You could have said, "This is one of the operators," and then blurred him out and removed his name. But you didn't.
CNN operate the Twitter account for the program, the Lead with Jake Tapper?
CNN as an entity? Yes, in that the show itself is the one that operates that account. And they're owned by CNN.
Was CNN reporting that Mr. Young was operating in the black market?
No.
what does CNN believe the phrase black market means?
An unregulated market.
I'm going to introduce what we'll make Composite Exhibit 9. This includes the documents produced as CNN 636 to 637, as well as 686 to 14, 15. Through 727. All right, so the first page here is the page CNN 636. And you recognize this as a Slack message conversation between Mr. Markart and Mr. Phillips.
I do.
I'm just going to highlight here. Do you see here where Mr. Markart wrote, "We gonna nail this Zachary Young M-fucker"?
Yes.
Does this communication from Mr. Markart, violate any internal CNN policies?
No.
So now I'm going to the next part of the composite exhibit, which starts with Bates CNN 686. You recognize this as a Slack conversation between Mr. Markart and Mr. Conti?
Yes.
And you see where Mr. McConkie wrote, "Do you have his pick saved?"
Yes.
Shortly thereafter, Mr. Conti responds, "What a punchable face."
Yes.
Does this message from Mr. Conti violate any internal CNN policies?
No.
So, in CNN's view, is there anything wrong with this message from Mr. Conti?
Again, it's conversation between two colleagues. It's not impacting editorial, so no.
So then that went to 689, and the next part of the composite exhibit starts at 707. Do you recognize this as Slack messages between Mr. Markart and Ms. Lillis, then Ms. Williams?
Yes.
We go down to the bottom, towards the bottom of 708. See where Mr. Markart wrote, "I've seen him shut down people immediately if they don't have sponsors for $$."
Yes.
And Ms. Lillis responded, "What a shitbag."
Yes.
Did this message from Ms. Lillis violate any internal CNN policies?
No.
And you see Ms. Lillis wrote, "So I'm wondering if you just kind of making it all up."
Yes.
And then Mr. Markart responds, "It's your funeral, bucko."
Yes.
And "your" there is referring to Mr. Young, right?
Yes.
Okay, so talking about it being a subject's, talking about the publication story being a subject's funeral doesn't violate any CNN policies.
I mean, the way I understood this was a reaction to him, the way he's answering questions, not about our publication of the story.
So you said CNN doesn't have an issue, it didn't affect the story. Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, if a reporter has animus towards the subject of a story, doesn't that have the potential to affect the story?
I'm not sure this is true animus or just newsroom chatter. We vetted all the information in the story, and we were comfortable with it.
You vetted? You vetted nothing, you jackass. You vetted nothing. You had a person who got contact with you. You had nothing to vet because he gave you nothing. So you invented a story. Now, the story about the Afghans, correct. They were sometimes subject to human traffickers. Mr. Young was not one of those people. But you had to have a bad guy in the story. So you just put him in there. 3 minutes of sob story, 1 minute of Mr. Young, finishing off with another minute of sob story. You created this story knowing how it would look on Mr. Young. You absolute buffoon.
I'd also point out it wasn't a story entirely about Mr. Young. This was a much larger story in which Mr. Young appeared somewhere near the back end of it.
So as I said, this is also a composite exhibit. Spans, we have CNN 158 through 160, as well as 451 through 453, as well as 683 through 685, as well as 690 through 693. You see where Ms. Hoffman wrote, let's put a pin in it for tonight. It's not ready for prime time.
Yes.
And then we go down to the next part of the composite, which is the document beginning at 683. This is a Slack message between Mr. Phillips and Mr. Lumley.
Yeah, could you zoom in again? It's also very small.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
And Mr. Lumley says, I've sent back edits and a fundamental question about the whole story.
Please repeat that slower.
Sure. Mr. Lumley wrote to Mr. Phillips, I've sent back edits and a fundamental question about the whole story I don't understand from Alex's right in the TV script.
I see that.
And if we go to the next part of the composite, which is document beginning date stamp 690. We go to the page 693. You see where Mr. Lumley wrote to Ms. Trimble, but the story is full of holes like Swiss cheese.
Yes.
And then Ms. Trimble replies, agreed, the story is 80% emotion, 20% obscured facts, LOL.
Yes.
If a CNN employee has concerns like this about the story, is there any sort of formal mechanism for them to raise that concern?
It's not formal, but they should raise it to their supervisor or the people involved in the story directly.
Does a story that is 80% emotion, 20% obscured fact meet CNN's journalistic standards?
If that was the end product, maybe not, depends on the story. Some stories are basically just interviews and emotion. I think in this case, though, Megan was reacting really at the beginning before fully understanding the story.
What about a story that has obscured facts? Would that be up to CNN's journalistic standards?
I guess I'd have to understand what an obscured fact is. Something's either a fact or it's not a fact.
Does CNN have any internal policies that would address reporters conspiring with a source to take someone down?
No, we don't. It's certainly not something we would want.
I'm going to introduce what we'll mark Exhibit 11. This document is CNN 1075 through 1081. Do you recognize them as a text exchange between Mr. Markart and an individual named James Daniels?
Oh, yes.
So I'm just kind of scrolling down here. All right, so we get to page date stamp CNN 1079. Do you see where Mr. Daniels writes, I'd love to see this guy taken down. Alex, I appreciate you taking an interest in this.
Yes. Okay, so Mr. Marquardt's not working with a source, he's talking to a source. I think in general, sources have different motivations for wanting to share information. Journalists are aware that they have those motivations. They should take that into account. But the information they provide is then vetted. I think if the people involved believe it's an issue, it's a matter of discussion, but it's not just about source bias, it's about the information being used. You could have a biased source, but still they could be providing information that is factual and relevant and worthy of use.
Are there any written policies that address, what vetting should be done of information obtained from potentially biased sources?
I don't know. I don't think there's a written policy. I'm almost positive of that. I mean, the notion of a biased source, everyone has a motivation. Everyone comes to the table with some self-interest. That is an understanding of any journalist dealing with the source, and it's a matter that they need to feel out and make sure it doesn't impact the information they're being provided. But again, information we take isn't just go unchecked from there. It is part of a collection of information from different sources before we decide what to use in a story.
Do you recall earlier we saw the message from Mr. Markart where he said we're gonna nail this Zachary Young M-fucker?
Yeah.
And then here he's talking to Source, and Source is saying he really wants Young taken down.
Yes.
Does CNN believe that Mr. Markart crossed any lines in pursuing the story against Mr. Young?
No, the story wasn't to take Mr. Young down.
Oh, you liar.
It was to nail him, right?
No, it was a story about Afghans' experience trying to get out of Afghanistan.
What is an enterprise story?
An enterprise story is generally one that is told that isn't just like something that's happening that day, events like today's D-Day celebration. It's something that's unique storytelling where we are bringing something either through the way we tell the story or the topic that stands as new information for our viewers.
And so how does an enterprise story originate? Does somebody make a pitch, or how does that work?
Typically, reporters learn of something they think it might make for an interesting story if they pursue it. They discuss it with their immediate supervising producer or editor, and then they pitch it.
And pitch it to who?
Typically first to their supervising producer editor, and then if they think it's worth doing, it goes up to me. And sometimes if it's something that involves a lot of work or a lot of expense or travel or others, it goes up the pitching process to some of the most senior people who make decisions on which stories are worth doing and for what shows.
Okay, so a reporter will first take it to their supervising producer?
Yeah.
And so in this case, that would be Mr. Markart taking it to Mr. Callahan?
Yeah, correct.
And then Mr. Callahan might bring it to you?
Correct.
And did he do that in this case?
Yes.
And then, depending on the story, you might take it further up the chain. Would that be to, at least back in November 2021, would that have been to Ms. Mosley?
Yeah. At the time, Michael Bass, who oversaw programming, Virginia, who oversaw news gathering, and Leora Kapelis, who sort of Kapelis, K-A-P-L-E-O-R-A, L-E-O-R-A, Kapelis, K-A-P-E-L-U-S. She sort of coordinates and all the different stories and what we're going ahead with and who they're for and when they're for. So that's who I would have produced that to for consideration.
Okay, and that's what happened in this with respect to this segment, right?
Right. I think I said something once I was comfortable that we had a good story here to throw it into the pitch pool, if you will.
As part of the fact-checking process, did anyone ever reach out to Audible to try and confirm whether Mr. Young had conducted evacuations for it?
We did not.
Why not?
The explanation Alex has given is that because the story wasn't about companies trying to get people out, this was about efforts of individual Afghans to seek ways to get help to get themselves out themselves.
But if Audible had confirmed that Mr. Young had conducted an evacuation for it, would that mean that Mr. Young was conducting evacuations for companies?
Yes, but again, not what the story was about. This was about Afghans who were trying to get out and what they were experiencing in trying to find someone to help them.
I'm still dumbfounded that everybody employed by CNN, except that editor, still goes with this narrative. Oh, Mr. Young was nothing. This was about Afghans trying to find help, trying to do this, trying to do. Well, then why did you put Mr. Young in it? You could have made this story entirety without Mr. Young. But you put Mr. Young in it, which makes me believe it was the other way around. The story was nailing Mr. Young, and then you put fluff before and after.
just, I know we kind of already talked about it a few times, but what is Triad and, let's do that. What is Triad?
Sure. Triad is actually 3 independent units within CNN. Each has a different role for vetting. Sometimes they work together. Sometimes only 1 or 2 of the units might be involved in a story. The one is what we already discussed. That's what we call the row, but it's generally the fact checking. Is the information as contained and presented in the story reflective of the facts that we actually know? Then the second unit would be the legal department. Are we within legal bounds in the way we are going about our reporting? And if there are any legal issues that need to be addressed regarding what we are reporting, they will vet it. And then there's standards and practices, which is more interested in the ethics. So in this case, mostly about the fact that we had 2 different Afghans. We were cloaking their identity. You saw their interviews, but you couldn't see them. Were we doing that? Were they comfortable with the reasoning for doing that? And were we doing it in a way that actually does prevent people from knowing their identity so that we're not violating the trust between those interviews and the reporter?
And does CNN know what prompted the segment of issues litigation to be submitted to the Triad process?
Yeah, I believe that it should have gone to Triad, which I think you have a document showing me saying obviously Triad, because I thought there were a number of issues that each of the different units was going to want to look at. Obviously, there was just the basic facts of the story. I want to make sure we were lined up. I thought because of the anonymity of some of the witnesses, that was going to be an issue, and we don't do it a lot in terms of showing people in darkness, but that's standard practice for us to make sure that we're all on the same page about it.
But you chose to show Mr. Young. I mean, this would have been a completely different story if you had blacked out Mr. Young, if you had removed his name and just presented as an anonymous operator. It would then be a complete, but you chose to show him because you wanted to nail him.
And I did think because of the matter at hand, I just wanted legal to have a look at it as well.
What about, so you said that, an individual show is responsible for the banners that are displayed during the use, is that correct?
Yes.
Do banners and graphics ever go through the Triad process?
Sometimes, rarely.
Is one of the things that standards will consider the potential negative impact a story could have on the people being reported on?
It isn't a yes, every story they do it thing. It's if we feel it's necessary, they will take that. They will consider that.
But standards didn't really, in this case, standards did not evaluate whether the story would have a negative impact on Mr. Young, correct?
No, because the story merely presented what Mr. Young was doing in terms of asking for price. The prices he was saying was the cost of his business, and that was a fair reflection of what he was doing.
Is there a difference between a retraction and a correction?
Yes.
What's the difference?
Sure. Correction is where we make an amendment to a story to correct a fact. Sorry to use a definition within a word within a definition. A retraction would be we pull back a story. We're part of the story.
Who makes the decision on whether to do a correction?
It could be from numerous places, but in this case, it was done through legal because of the legal discussion between Mr. Friedman and Drew.
Something aired in March of 2022, sort of addressing the story. Is that correct?
Yeah. When the lead aired the apology and correction notice.
So that was my question. Was that a correction or a retraction?
That was a correction.
And what was it that was being corrected?
What was being corrected was if there was any misunderstanding about the impression that the term black market applied directly to Mr. Young. That was not the intention, and that was an error.
So earlier you testified...
Sorry, if I could just say, that was an error based on the fact that Mr. Young felt, and Mr. Friedman conveyed, that was how it was received by Mr. Young, and they took issue with that. And we felt in order to resolve the legal discussion at hand, a correction was due, or at least our legal department felt that, I should say.
So the legal department felt that. Does CNN still feel like a correction was in order?
In terms of resolving the matter and the concerns that Mr. Young raised about how it reflected on him, and in order to help ameliorate that situation, we felt that the correction was due.
So CNN did it just to try and avoid a lawsuit, essentially.
CNN did it because in discussion with Mr. Friedman, about a potential for a lawsuit and concerns about the way the matter reflected on his client, that a correction was due to resolve that.
Does that mean CNN viewed Mr. Young's understanding that it applied to him as a reasonable one?
I think we viewed that Mr. Young was very concerned about the way that the story, as presented with the banner as presented, was being perceived. We understood that how he felt, it wasn't the intention of the story, but we felt in order to resolve this, we would issue the correction.
So it wasn't CNN's intention to report that Young was operating on a black market?
The term black market, as stated in the banner, was not about Mr. Young. It was about the general environment the Afghans were operating.
It was one on the same segment. That is why it's defamation by implication.
But CNN understood why Mr. Young might have taken it that way?
When it was explained to us, we understood that he took offense to it, if you will. And so we took steps to try and resolve the matter.
Yeah, does that mean CNN viewed Mr. Young's interpretation as reasonable?
And I'll give this, I'll say it again. I think in discussion with Mr. Friedman, Drew felt it was appropriate to issue the correction in order to resolve the matter.
Surely CNN doesn't issue a correction every time somebody doesn't like a story, right?
That's right.
Okay, so does that mean that CNN viewed Mr. Young's concerns as reasonable enough to warrant airing a correction?
I think we viewed that Mr. Young had raised what his concern was, and that we had a way to try to resolve that by issuing the correction, and so we did.
But I'm asking whether CNN thought that that concern was reasonable or unreasonable.
I'll just say it again. I think the view of the legal department was to issue the correction to resolve the matter.
I just want to know whether Mr. Young, in CNN's view, Mr. Young's concern about the banner was reasonable or not.
Well, we ran the correction. I'm not sure I'm at liberty to talk about what the legal department felt in their legal discussions about it.
But I'm not asking what the legal department thought about it. I'm asking whether CNN, the company, thinks Mr. Young's concern about the banner was a reasonable concern.
CNN, the company, thinks that our legal department took steps appropriate as our legal representation to resolve the matter.
That's not the question, though.
I thought it was.
The question is whether CNN thinks Mr. Young's concern about the banner was a reasonable concern.
And I'll just say it again. We obviously felt we could resolve this issue. We were trying not to have a lawsuit about it, and the legal department felt it was necessary to issue the correction to resolve the matter.
But surely CNN won't issue corrections for unreasonable concerns, right?
Well, that's correct.
I'm asking whether the company thinks Mr. Young's concern that the banner could make someone think he was operating in the black market was a reasonable concern.
Same answer. CNN thinks that our legal department made the best decision for the company in having the correction issued to resolve the matter.
You testified that CNN won't issue corrections to address unreasonable concerns, right?
Generally, they won't.
And CNN did issue a correction in this case, right?
Correct.
That means Mr. Young's concern was not unreasonable.
There could be many reasons, but I'm not privy to the legal discussion about it. That's privilege.
I'm not asking about the legal discussion. I'm asking whether CNN thought Mr. Young's concern was unreasonable.
Well, I'll answer again. Based on the facts, this was a decision made for legal reasons, and the correction was issued at the direction of our legal department. So CNN thinks that the decision by the legal department was the right one for the company, based on them being our legal department.
Are you saying that CNN issued a correction in this case to address an unreasonable concern?
I really, CNN obviously engaged with Mr. Friedman, and the legal department decided that a correction was the right thing to do, so they did it. That was a decision made by our legal department.
Okay, but this legal department is part of CNN, right?
Yes.
Does CNN approve? CNN had to carry out the decision by the legal department, right?
Correct.
And Drew Shankman didn't go on air and do this himself, right?
No.
Okay, so legal provided some input, and CNN, the company, viewed it as reasonable to air a correction, right?
CNN, the company, based on the decision made by our legal department, felt it was appropriate to run the correction.
Does Drew Shankman have authority to make programming decisions?
No, but
Okay, so who's responsible for making the decision to air the correction, Mr. Levine?
Drew Shankman informed the show that the correction was necessary based on the legal team's considerations, and they worked with the show to get that correction issued.
Okay. So CNN viewed Mr. Young's concern as reasonable enough to issue a correction, right?
The legal department felt the correction was.
Look at him squirm. He knows that somebody, even though legal have an opinion, it still has to be approved by someone. And I could bet good money that that someone is Mr. Levine here. But he will never admit to it.
Necessary, and they used the show, which was where the piece aired, to convey that correction in order to ameliorate the concerns and resolve the issue between Mr. Young and CNN.
CNN, acting through its legal department and the show, viewed the concern as reasonable enough to air a correction, right?
CNN felt it was reasonable to run the correction based on the views of its legal department.
So, Mr. Levine, to be clear, I'm not asking for the mental impressions of CNN's legal department. I'm simply asking whether CNN and company views Mr. Young's concern that the black market references applied to him as a reasonable concern.
I'd say that CNN, the writing of the banner was not intended to be a reflection on Mr. Young the way he perceived it. And as far as resolving a matter that was brought between our legal department and Mr. Young and his lawyers, we felt that running the correction would be a reasonable way to resolve the matter.
So Mr. Young's concern is reasonable enough to run a correction.
I mean, Mr. Young's legal engagement with CNN obviously led to the legal department believing that in running the correction, they could resolve the matter.
What do the guidelines say about source bias?
I don't think there's anything about source bias. I think there's a general understanding that one should understand the motivation of their sources.
Is that understanding part of the written guidelines?
As much as I can remember, no, I don't think so. I think that's just a general journalism principle, though.
Okay, so there's no written guidelines that address dealing with a source's motivations or biases?
Not that I recall.
Was there a correction issued on social media in this case?
No.
Mr. Levine, in CNN's view, is Mr. Young's concern that the black market banner applied to him a reasonable concern?
CNN's view is that CNN didn't intend to write that graphic to apply to Mr. Young. It was written in general about the experience of Afghans and the entirety of the story. But insofar as Mr. Young felt it reflected on him, and because of the way it was expressed through his lawyers to CNN, we felt it prudent to run the correction. Well, if you want, I mean, look, in general, CNN doesn't think it was a reasonable response. As a whole, that was not the intention of the banner, the way it was written to apply to Mr. Young. But we understood that that was how he perceived it. And in discussions between the lawyers, it was felt to resolve the matter, we would issue the correction.
Okay, so CNN's view is that Mr. Young's concern was unreasonable?
Yes.
Do you recognize this as the transcript for what you said was the correction that aired?
I do.
Okay. You see where it says the use of the term black market in the story was in error?
Yes.
What does CNN think was in error about it?
I think we think the error was in the way Mr. Young perceived it to have reflected upon him, and that was what we were correcting for here.
Okay, so CNN doesn't think it made an error.
No. I think
So it says regret. When it says later, it says we regret the error. It means we regret Mr. Young's error.
No, we regret Mr. Young's, the impression it left that Mr. Young had conveyed to us that he felt was unfair, and we were resolving that with the correction.
So when CNN said we regret the error meant the impression that Mr. Young had.
The impression Mr. Young had of what that banner was a reflection of him. That didn't really make sense. The impression that Mr. Young felt the banner gave of him in terms of how we portrayed him in this.
So this is them trying to turn it around to, no, we apologize for how he felt. This is what he, Mr. Levine is trying to testified to in the deposition, but that's not correct. CNN Legal, in my opinion, knew what they aired was wrong, and they were desperately trying to avoid civil litigation about it. And it didn't work. And here we are.
The word error is doing a lot of work there, isn't it?
It's signaling that this is a correction.
And then you apologize to Mr. Young for his misimpression.
For the well, his misimpression, that he felt that that banner left an impression that he took issue with.
So CNN's not apologizing for anything it did.
Well, as I said before, I mean, the banner itself, as a description of the issue facing Afghans, which is what the entirety of the story was about, we felt was a fair banner to run. Insofar as that banner, Mr. Young felt reflected unfairly on him and the way he was operating, we understood that that was the impression he felt was given by that banner, and we wanted to correct the issue.
Okay, and in CNN's view, Mr. Young was participating in that black market.
Yeah.
Okay, but here it said you didn't mean to suggest that, right?
Insofar as Mr. Young felt it reflected badly on him, we wanted to correct the record.
This is so bad. They know exactly what black market means, but in the case of this defamation trial, they can't say. They are desperately trying to change the narrative. This is 1984. This is, the words does not mean what they actually mean. Let us invent a new definition. There's no other definition of black market than an illegal market.
Right.
Even though you think Mr. Young was participating in a black market.
In general, efforts of Afghans to get out beyond government extractions, we consider to be part of a black market.
So let me ask this. Did CNN intend to suggest or not that Mr. Young participated in the black market for evacuations?
CNN did not intend that, in that we didn't write that banner to be about Mr. Young. It was meant to talk about the general environment that Afghans were operating in. Mr. Young's appearance in the story was about to show the sorts of prices that they were facing sometimes and that some of them were high. And so that was why he was in the story, but it was not our intention to write that black market banner about Mr. Young.
Okay, so just to recap, CNN didn't intend the black market banner to refer to Mr. Young, right? And according to this correction, it didn't mean to suggest that Mr. Young participated in the black market.
Right, there's nothing in our story itself that says that, right?
Okay, but CNN nonetheless does believe that Mr. Young was in fact participating in the black market.
Yeah.
Okay. If CNN thought that, why wouldn't it report that?
Because that wasn't what we were saying in the story. These are not words in the story, it was words in a banner that ran with the story. It wasn't our intention to write that Mr. Young was participating in the black market. And so
yes, it was. You're lying, Zachary.
My name will mark as Exhibit 14.
Yeah, as Polly Popcorn says, we all heard it the same way as Mr. Young.
And this is the document date stamp CNN 000354. Do you recognize this as an email between yourself and Ms. Mosley?
Yes.
And you're sending her pitches for Mr. Marquardt?
Correct.
And you said, it says, we would interview an Afghan in the U.S. trying to get his family out, talk to others who are also trying to leave/work this shadowy black market.
Mm-hmm.
So is it true that the story was pitched from its inception as a story about the black market?
I don't think it was pitched as such, but I think CNN's view is that the unregulated, environment that Afghans had to try to find ways out was a black market.
The pitch for the story used the phrase black market, right?
Yeah.
And you said that pitch with the words black market in it to Ms. Mosley?
Yes.
One of the top executives at CNN?
Correct.
And she approved it?
Yes, it was approved. I think Michael Bass ultimately approved it.
Reported directly to the CEO of CNN, right?
I'm not sure that was his title, but yes. Reported to the top executive at CNN.
What's a lead-in?
A lead-in's an introduction to a story, so you have the tape piece, and then you have what the anchor generally says, and sometimes the reporter himself on camera before you take the piece.
Does the lead-in describe what the story is about?
It could. Sometimes it just presents the first piece of information about the story.
Did the lead-in in this segment use the phrase black market?
Yes.
Sorry, I should clarify. Not here, but in the lead-in that Mr. Tapper did in the run-up to the story, did he use the phrase black market?
I believe he did. Again,
And so did Mr. Tapper's lead-in describe what the story was about?
yeah.
And what's the difference between a correction and a retraction in CNN's view?
Well, a correction is, making an adjustment to the information inside a story. A retraction would be pulling back part or all of a story. I mean, we did retract the video from digital, I know that, but what was said on air was a correction.
Okay, so the video was retracted. What aired in March was a correction?
Yeah.
When CNN does a correction or a retraction, does it take any steps to ensure that the retraction or correction is propagated through the same distribution channels that the original story went through?
Yeah, I think so. Like, for example, we will, if we're going to do something on air, we will do it in the place it first aired.
Okay, so in this case, that meant airing the correction on the lead?
Yes, and I believe as well, because this letter, if I'm correct, the back and forth was about the airing on the lead.
Okay, and then the Facebook post with the video got taken down, right?
Yeah, and online it got taken down.
And was the video of the correction, was that posted to Facebook?
I don't think so.
Was it posted online anywhere?
No.
What about the Twitter account for the lead? Did it publish the clip of the correction?
It did not.
And then the original segment was rebroadcast 4 times, correct?
Yes.
And I think one of those rebroadcasts was on Connect the World with Max Foster, right?
Correct.
Did the correction ever air on Connect the World?
No.
And then 3 of the rebroadcasts were CNN Newsroom, is that right?
You mean 2?
2, yes.
Yes.
And did Newsroom ever air the clip of the correction?
No.
And then where was the last place that the segment was rebroadcast?
There were 2 domestic newsrooms, and were there 2 CNN International airings, I believe? Because it was 5 in total, right?
Correct. And one of the internationals was Connect the World.
One was Michael Holmes as the anchor, and one was Max Foster. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of their specific shows.
Okay. Was the show with Michael Holmes, did that ever air the clip of the correction?
No.
Did anyone at CNN assess any social media posts by Mark or anyone else to determine whether they needed to revise or retract them?
Yeah, I believe our legal department looked at them.
I'm going to introduce what we'll mark as Exhibit 16, which has the date stamp CNN 001197 to 1198. Do you recognize this document, Mr. Levine?
I do. Do you mind zooming in again? Just to make it bigger. I mean, I've seen it, but yeah.
Okay. And is this Mr. Markart's Instagram account?
Can you scroll up? It looks like it is.
So earlier you testified that CNN's view is that black market, at least in connection with the segment, meant unregulated market, right?
Yeah.
So where does CNN derive that definition from?
I mean, I think we take it from the general understanding of black market as an unregulated market.
That is so false. That is so false. That is not a general understanding of black market, and you know it. You lying sack of shit.
Well, what does CNN use to determine the meaning of words? Does it have a preferred dictionary?
No, it doesn't have a preferred dictionary.
Does CNN derive its understanding of the meaning of the phrase black market from a dictionary?
For this story, it did not. I think everyone took it. I mean, you've interviewed most of the people involved in the story. I think it was accepted as sort of black market in a colloquial sense of unregulated.
Is CNN's deriving its meaning of the word black market just based on what CNN says it means?
But yes, I think so. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think anyone involved in the story said, "Stop, let's look up the meaning of black market." Right? I think in this sense, black market has a colloquial term that's thrown around, and everyone just took it to mean that.
No.
I mean, you testified CNN's understanding of it being an unregulated market, right? Okay, so but I'm saying, sitting here today, testifying for CNN, you haven't seen that definition given anywhere else?
No, but I haven't seen any of the definitions, is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. That's such a
I haven't looked it up in
obvious
the
lie.
dictionary. You're asking me if I've seen it, so
Does CNN agree that black market can also mean an illegal market?
I think it can. I think when we put together the story and wrote that banner, our understanding was just a more general sense, black market being an unregulated place, where things were being offered. We recognized Mr. Young in communicating, felt it was a reflection of illegality, and it made it look like what he was doing was illegal. That was not our intention, which sort of goes back to that correction question you had.
Does CNN believe that Young was involved in any illegal activity?
No.
And then finally, we have a page that was produced as CNN 000932. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. So, you said you reviewed the Nielsen ratings for each show, correct?
Yeah.
What are Nielsen ratings?
They're a rating, a measure of the audience taken by the Nielsen company as a way of understanding level of interest.
And like, how does Nielsen, what's CNN's understanding about how Nielsen generates those ratings?
I believe they have a sample of houses that they use to measure what they're watching and use that to extrapolate total audience.
And how does CNN use Nielsen ratings?
I think we use it in a number of ways. One is just as a measure of how the shows are performing. I'm sure our advertising group uses it as a way to show interest in their discussion with advertisers about rates. Those are two ways.
So what was the average viewership of The Lead with Jay Tapper in 2021?
Over 1 million, just over 1 million.
So like per show, about 1 million people, just over 1 million people would watch it?
On average. Yeah. I think it was 1.008 million.
And is that people or households?
I think it's people.
And then here in the interrogatory response, you see it pulls out 5:38 p.m. to 5:44 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that to be when the segment was aired?
That's my understanding.
And then it's followed by the number 669. What does that indicate?
That indicates a total audience at that time of 669,000 viewers.
Okay, so meaning the 669 means 669,000?
That's right.
Okay. And then the next rebroadcast looks like it was on CNN Newsroom from 10:25 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And here there's number 434.
Correct.
That means 434,000 people.
Yes.
What's the average viewership for CNN Newsroom in 2021?
Close to 800,000.
And then there's another rebroadcast later that day, also on CNN Newsroom between 5:50 to 5:55 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And this indicates that 503,000 people were watching during that broadcast of the segment.
Yeah.
And how often does Newsroom air per day?
So this is 2021. I believe Newsroom was also the name of our weekday dayside show for about 6 hours or so a day. Plus on the weekend, it was several hours per day. It was kind of our midday afternoon show. I believe. So quite a few hours. But they're produced by different people, different days, different times. So it's like one name, but it applies to many shows.
And you said the average viewership of the lead in 2021 was a little over 1 million people.
That's right.
So CNN doesn't have Nielsen information regarding this. Does it have any information regarding viewership for these international broadcasts?
No.
How does CNN sort of track the success or lack thereof of its international programming?
I think they might do some of their own surveys, but I can't speak to it.
So do you have any information about the viewership for Connect the World?
I don't.
So it could be more or less than the numbers we're seeing for the domestic broadcasts?
Given more or less describes any option, yeah.
Because CNN 932.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what this is?
Yeah, this looks like our digital numbers.
Okay. And so would this be like readership for the digital article that was published?
It looks like it's both the article and the video.
And what does unique visitors indicate?
Individual readers. So like if you came back 3 times, I believe you'd only be counted once.
All right. So if we look across all the properties, then there was 19,122 unique visitors that viewed the digital piece.
That's right.
And so this indicates that through the online properties shown here, 1,350 unique people clicked on the video.
Yes.
Was that spreadsheet showing the digital viewership that we were looking at, would that reflect like viewership of people who clicked on the video through this Facebook post?
I don't think so.
And then you also testified earlier that you were told that CNN has no viewership information for the shows responsible for the international broadcasts, right?
Correct.
Friedman? Your Honor, we have some discovery responses we'd like entered into.
All right, folks, that was Adam Levine's deposition. And oh my God, it was bad. The sliminess, the wriggling, the rephrasing of words, the absolute fustercluck. It is appalling. I don't know what you think of news organizations usually, but if this trial didn't show you how they actually work, this is what goes on behind the scenes. And they got called out in this trial. Saturday, not sure about the time yet. Saturday, I will have an exclusive interview with Mr. Friedman, Attorney Friedman, Mr. Young's attorney in this trial. And that will probably, unless there is some breaking news, will probably be my last segment on the CNN defamation trial. I will then, because sure, I could probably make more videos or streams and really suck it dry, but that would just be clickbaiting. So I will extract a few videos from the streams to present to the people who prefer the video format and highlight format. Other than that, unless I get Mr. Young in the future to testify, not to testify, but to interview. But yeah, that will be my coverage of this trial from gavel to gavel. This is what I do, gavel to gavel. I don't have a time, a pinpointed time on Saturday. It will probably be late afternoon, early evening, Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, Brooklyn Ness, is he for sure booked? Yes, he is. We have been talking a lot via DMs and stuff. But yeah, okay. For you who don't know, this trial ended Friday with $5 million in lost wages and damages. And then when they moved on to punitive damages, how much the jury wanted to punish CNN. CNN settled for an undisclosed amount. And I do believe that what really drove CNN to the table is that the jury was reasonable in the damages. Now, had they gone excessive, then CNN would have appealed this to Kingdom Come. But there was nothing to appeal. Now, to me, $5 million isn't reasonable. But in a legal setting, because he asked for 21 in lost wages alone, and he got 4, which means the jury thought 20 was too much and gave him a reasonable amount of money in lost wages and damages. And that is what scared CNN and their attorneys, because there would be nothing to appeal. What do I believe the undisclosed amount is? For more or less burying this, for probably, this is what CNN said, we will not appeal anything. You will have this cash in hand as soon as the bank opens on Monday. I would assume it is 20 to 25 million. But it could be more. It could be more. But cash in hand, 20 to 25 on the punitive, which gives him 25 to 30. That is my estimation. I don't know if it's correct. Maybe you got 100 mil. I don't know. But yeah. But I will tell you this. Going forward, I will actively look for more defamation trials against news organizations to cover, because this was fun. This was very, very fun. But it is almost 5 a.m. I need to grab a cup of coffee, and then I'm off to work. I have to feed Mr. Jingles. Everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to do this. And yeah, thank you to John Lee for sponsoring 5 new members. Thank you so much. Thank you to Nicholas Kreuzer for your $5 super chat. Thank you to Lynn Britton for being a member for 7 months. Thank you so much. And thank you to Slidey Pie over at Rumble for your generous Rumble rant. Thank you over at X for watching. If you haven't hit the like, hit it now. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. And I will see you in the next stream or video. Thank you, folks. Have a good one. And remember, hug your family. Unless your family is crap, then screw them and give your love to the people who deserve it. Okay? See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Against the void, grasp the twisted threads of truth, laughing in the face of chaos, burning knowledge like a ruthless youth. Complex thoughts dance in the fire, cynics grin with a wisecrack dire, fighting shadows and sharp bloodshot eyes. In the maze of thoughts ensnare, every joke a blade prepared, cuts through lies with humor's flair. Unseen wisdom few can bear.